I think it's time we grow this dream. Get everybody on the mics together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the sudden but inevitable Rebop. I am Captain Bootscoot, a.k.a. Vanilla Husband, a.k.a. your host, Jesse. Now, of course, the sudden but inevitable Rebop is the podcast where we take two anime first-timers through the series Cowboy Bebop, 1 or 2 episodes at a time, depending on the kind of time that we have in a given week. Of course, I can't do that on my own. I have to have a lot of help to do that. And the first person here to help me do that is a fellow anime veteran at Miss My Armcast, Kylie. Kylie, welcome to the show, and how has your week been, my friend?
Very, very good. Thanks for asking. Not a whole lot of updates, I guess, for the week, but pretty excited about these episodes that, we watched this week. So how about you, Jesse?
Thank you very much for
Yeah,
asking.
no, I don't ask you every time, but, it is important, so.
It's okay. I generally just try to exude a wave of positivity to indicate that I've had a pretty good week.
Nice.
But this week, I actually didn't have to work today, so I had a wonderful time getting ready for tonight's episodes and tinkering with some behind-the-scenes stuff for the show. So thank you for asking, and we will bring that stuff up. But I don't have control of this here, set of levers. So to be able to show that stuff to everybody, we're going to have to bring in the first of our anime-resistant first-timers, the head of the Twist My Arm Podcast Network and the host of the Twist My Arm Podcast, our friend Josh. Josh, where you at, my friend?
Hello.
Oh, look at that. That was speedy. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am great. Thank you for having me back every week. It's so good to be here. I love doing this show. Let's not talk about my week. Let's just keep going.
We can do that. We can definitely do that. Let's get our final introduction out of the way, and then we're going to take a moment to say hello to all the wonderful, beautiful people in our live chat. And, of course, the final introduction that we do have, much like every other week, is the shining, beautiful, emotional soul of the sudden but inevitable Rebop, our friend Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Welcome to the show, my friend. How has your week been?
I'm doing good. I would just like to say I don't consider myself emotional or shining. So a little bit of contesting with that, but I'm doing good. Happy to be here.
Well, your distaste for pretty people really
I think
kind of
You're making me emotional, Josh, please.
See? I was going to say, if people just give it a moment, they'll see that I'm right. Welcome, everyone on the crew. Thank you again for joining me. Now, as I said we were going to do, I'm going to say hello to everybody in the live chat. That, of course, first of all, has to go to Miss Rosie. Miss Rosie was the first in the live chat. Hello, Miss Rosie. Thank you for joining us. We also have Callie D in the chat, who's here every week. Good morning. I know it is 4:30 in the morning where you are, give or take a time zone or two. I'd also like to say hello to Moltar Gomez. He says, yay, didn't miss it. And Phil K in the chat. Evening, Callie, Rosie, Phil, Moltar, Pixie from Next on Stage 1. You people, I love you all so much. Thank you for joining us. We are so excited to have you to talk these 2 episodes of Cowboy Bebop. And I promise we're going to jump into that quicker than we normally do. We're actually already moving quicker than we normally do, which is very impressive. So, I had mentioned a little bit of tinkering that I'd been doing. And it's one of those things where we started thinking to ourselves, you guys, it's getting cold. It's going to be fall soon. The biggest thing that we can do to help you get through those days is offer you a hoodie, right? Well, maybe we could offer you 2 hoodies, actually, because now if you go to the Sudden But Inevitable shop, you will find not 1, but 2 brand new hoodie designs, one for each season. The first one has the very cool Firefly-inspired Season 1 cover, and the second one has the very cool Season 2 design on it, the silhouette, much like the T-shirts. Now, our friend Rosie as we
I am
mentioned
loving
before.
that color.
Yes, I
Isn't
love
that
that
just
color too.
Yeah.
gorgeous?
It's very cool.
I
Nice.
love that color. It comes
Ooh,
in
and
a
that heather
variety of
gray.
colors.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yes. Our friend Rosie, I do have to say thank you to personally. She was the first person to purchase one of our season 1 Sudden But Inevitable tour shirts, and that was like within an hour or maybe 2 hours of it going up. And we have had 2 or 3 other very wonderful friends and listeners order their shirts since then. So we have to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts for that. It's the smallest thing that we can do to say thank you. And then the biggest thing that we will do is take all of that money that you send to us, and we're going to make this show even better than it already is. It's going to be a lot of fun. Season 3 is coming up. I don't want to talk about how close we are to the end of Season 2 because it makes me very sad, and it will make Ricky D very emotional, and we don't really have time for that kind of a thing.
Please don't.
Yeah.
I do want to
But
say we're
Callie's-
also kind of I mean I have been at least looking into any sort of charities we can donate some of our proceeds to. I just feel like we probably should.
You
I
know,
feel like it's about that time where we could actually help other people.
I agree. I think that we're building our way up to that sort of thing. I think that we would all agree that we would like to do stuff like that. But I think at this point, it's kind of cool that we at least can offer, if we are making some sort of profit, we've been able to at least, give prizes and do some giveaways and
Yep.
stuff like that. So that's been a really fun start. But yeah, as Josh said, I think that we have some high hopes, and like to see that all come to
Yes.
fruition.
Speaking
to
of
that-
that, oh my goodness, I have a giveaway coming up. I'm very close to 1,000 downloads, and I will be doing a giveaway myself
Very
here
cool.
very shortly. So keep an eye out for that.
Listen to the Twist My Arm podcast wherever you listen to your fine podcasts. I would also like to say hello to Luke in Fort Collins in the live chat. He says, "Do it." Here we go, my friend. I promise you, we are about to really quickly to that.
Luke
last
is
point.
on one of my favorite ever TMA episodes called Frozen Bananas. If you go and check out Frozen Bananas, Luke is on that show, and it was
That
one
was
of my
one
favorites.
of Jesse's first, if I
an
remember
oldie.
correctly.
It's
so.
an oldie, but it's a goodie.
Yep. So I'm there as well. I'm also
Yes,
there.
Yes.
To Josh's earlier point, we are going to be looking into working in collaboration probably with some of the brown coat organizations that we've made friends with recently in an effort to maximize the output that we can create for a charitable organization, as opposed to, maybe just asking our audience. We would like to get a very, very large audience together so that we can make the biggest change that we can.
Correct.
Speaking of big change that we're trying to make, if you have a minute, go check out the Twist My Arm podcast feed, and you will notice that the first part of the hashtag TMA PodCon 21 podcast is available, and that has some very cool free tips for indie podcasters in it. Now, I think that's basically all that we have to get out of the way today, except for one really small correction that I have to point out, and I guess I should ask you guys, does anybody else have a correction to make this week?
No.
Okay.
No.
So
Who's he gonna pick on?
Yeah, what's going on?
Let's guess. Just kidding.
live chat. You've
Oh.
got 30 seconds. Guess who this correction is for. I'm going to take a quick sip.
I have a feeling it's gonna be me.
The way he's posing, it's gotta be me.
Maybe it's Jesse. Maybe Jesse has a
maybe-
correction
Nah.
for
Or
Jesse.
he's building.
We
it
all
up
know
because
Jesse
he
would
doesn't.
sweep it under the rug.
He doesn't get to, tell Josh that he's wrong a lot either. So this might be
That's-
a.
I don't know, man. That's not true. There's a lot of things you don't know that we talk about where Jesse's like, yeah, I don't know, man. You're pretty wrong on that.
Callie says Josh is wrong.
Yeah,
if
it's
it
probably
were
me.
if it were one of my mistakes, to Ricky D's point, I would just edit it out of the show. And, then
And Ricky would have brought it up. You're right. You're
yeah.
right.
So
Yeah, I would have caught it if it
Um,
was Jesse.
it's we've got a ding 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 in the chat. Rosie D has the correct answer. It's for Ricky D.
Ah.
This is a big one, folks, and I don't know how Ricky D missed this. And
Oh God.
I don't mean to embarrass you in front of such a large live audience, Ricky D, but last week you said that Ed and Ein get on the scooter to take chase. And I'm pretty sure you meant to say give chase. Come on, man.
Oh my
That's
God.
a huge mistake. What are you doing over there?
Really, Jesse?
Well, it
You-
does
you
warrant
guys
a
don't think
removal
so?
from the screen for at least 5 seconds. So
Thank you. It's a mistake
just
when you make a
know,
mistake.
anytime there's a correction, we got to remove someone from the screen.
I'm
for
willing
at
to
least
take
5
the whole
seconds.
week off over something like that.
He's like, I'm out. I'm
Whoa,
done.
you guys, he's getting emotional. Let's just move along. I
Take
don't
it
want to
back.
stall the show any further from here. Let's just. It was one of those things that as soon as you said it, Ricky D, when I was listening back through the edit, I was like, if that were me, I would record this much audio of me saying give instead of take. But it wasn't me, so. Anyway,
I've been
I
there.
don't want to
I've
sing
done
the
that
Shaggy
same
song.
thing.
I don't want to.
I've-
I don't want to. Oh yeah.
So was that just
recorded 3
embarrassing for
words.
Ricky, or was that embarrassing for Jesse to have even noticed?
No, I think the point of it was that it was the smallest thing that I could have possibly corrected. That Ricky
No,
D
I
had
love it. I
ever-
love it. It's so very Jesse of you.
I have to stay in
asked him-
character.
I sent him the PodCon Part 1 the other day to proofread for me. I was like, can you just listen to this and make sure it's okay? And he's like, how picky do you want me to be? And I'm like, oh my God, not very. Just let me know if it's listenable or not, please.
So an hour and a half later, I went, yeah, it's good.
He's got notes for whenever I want those actual notes, I'm sure.
They're very small things. I like to stay in character. Let's just put it that way. Ricky D, I don't think anybody begrudges you that. I don't think anybody would even call that a mistake. So
No.
I'm still embarrassed.
with that,
You should be.
I appreciate that. So with that out of the way, and with our wonderful live chat here to be supportive and hopefully not quite as nitpicky as I, let's hand things over to our friend Kylie to give us the synopsis for our first session 19, Wild Horses, and then your fun facts that may be associated with said episode.
See, and that's why we can't ever do corrections with you, because you just do it right in the moment.
He does a
Anywho.
commercial every time he starts to talk. As somebody who did Bed Wed Behead with him, he did a commercial every time he began to talk. Then he started a second commercial halfway into his first.
Follow Bed Wed Behead Pod on Twitter. They've got an episode dropping on Monday that features me and Ricky D from Best Flicks
Oh
with
my
Ricky
goodness.
Jesse's very excited because he's in it. Okay, so session 19, Wild Horses. While Spike pays a visit to the man who built his ship, Faye and Jet go fishing for space pirates. Just first and foremost, Wild Horses, as per usual, the title and the name is, alluding to something, and that would be Rolling Stones, 1971 album Sticky Fingers. But then also you have Doohan.
Du hast.
So that is definitely a reference to James
Yes.
Doohan. And who is that, Jesse? Who would that be?
I wrote this down because I want to say it correctly. Doohan, as in James Doohan, as in Scotty the Miracle Working Engineer from the Enterprise NCC 1701, no bloody A, B, C, or D. And
Beautiful.
that is not the only Star Trek reference or theme in this whole episode, but we will get to those as we get to those. Kylie, please continue, and thank you.
Yes, and I think that was funny. We were just talking before we started recording of how you would pronounce that. Doohan is the actor's last name, but I think they pronounce it Doohan in
They do.
this dubbed version.
Correct.
So Doohan is what we're gonna go with. But yes, it's Scotty. Like beam me up, Scotty.
I'm going with Du Hast.
Doohan. But then also, I do have another fun fact, but I think maybe it would be better placed when we actually talk about it, like in the episode. So I'll hold on to that one.
Sounds good.
Cool.
With that out of the way, thank you very much. I just have to say, definite Firefly trash vibes at the start of this episode. Like, Spike is stranded. He's in a desert. He's by himself. Things aren't working. Seems like he's not in a great way,
He's got
And-
clothes on though. He's not naked.
which is huge leaps and bounds ahead of Mal. Like,
yeah.
no matter how bad Spike's day is, it's not quite.
And he's
well,
got
now-
cigarettes.
but remember that actually the nudity turned out to be part of Mal's plan. So, but yes, Spike does have cigarettes, and boy, is he going to take advantage of that.
Oh my God. The first scene is like a pile of cigarettes that he's just smoking and throwing it out and smoking and throwing it. I had to pause to go smoke a cigarette
Yeah.
because of all the cigarettes he
It
smoked
totally
in this
does
episode.
that to me too. Yeah, you're like, that sounds really good right now.
But it's also the first time that we've seen him respect a no smoking sign. when
Right.
the
True.
door to the truck
Right.
opens and he sees the sign, he like spits it out, and it's like, okay, so if he's desperate enough, he will read signage and abide.
Well, and I just had to laugh because that's definitely a motif that you see throughout the whole series is he's not allowed to smoke.
Faye, smoke, Faye. We got a lot of it not far away.
I have to get this out of the way, you guys. I hate the Blue Sox. They are the worst team ever. I mean, it doesn't matter. They could have a whole season where they're just doing terribly, and then as soon as the season is almost over, they just play spoiler to whoever's in first place. I am so sick of the Blue Sox. How do you guys feel about the Blue Sox?
Well, first of all, I am Miles. Miles is me. Like me and him are the same person because he loves a team that sucks, just like I love a team that sucks. But you know what can you do? I the whole time he was talking about the Blue Sox, you could just replace Blue Sox with Rockies, and it would be the same thing. It'd be perfect.
Not to mention any other colored socks, but
Red Sox are pretty good this year.
there's
but
also White Sox too.
White Sox are pretty good this year too.
Mhm.
They're not as bad as the Blue Sox.
And what an easy way around copyright infringement.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just pick a different color.
So, and first of all, my first question is: there's still baseball in 2077? That's crazy, or
It's
whatever year this
baseball.
is.
Now,
No, it's baseball. It is absolutely baseball.
I don't know. I think I like Ricky's Spaceball better.
I think it's Spaceball with an SB, right? But
Space.
Space.
I mean, it's already
Spaceball.
been around for 100+ years. What's to say it couldn't go another 50? Because this is only another 50 years. Really
Yeah,
quickly, I'd like to
what's
say
the
hello
future?
to our
What's
friend
the-
Space Castle in the live chat. Thank you for joining us.
Who says
our
there will
friend
never
from
not
Space
be
Castle.
baseball? Which
Exactly.
you're probably right.
He's 100% correct because it's already been around for so long. As soon as we start, can you imagine how big the league would be if there were multiple planets with teams? Callie, you've heard the term baseball, right? Even if you don't watch baseball.
Oh,
Either way.
yes, that's actually incredibly intriguing, Callie.
It
Have
is a
we
deeply
not?
American sport. I mean, that's kind of the
That's
that's
very
kind of the
true,
thing,
but
right?
it's also
that's
it's
baked
a
into it.
Japanese sport.
But when you live in
Oh,
what,
that's
Germany?
true.
It,
Germany,
it's a Japanese,
Scotland?
very big in Japan, and it actually
Japan has been
features in a lot
kicking
of
our
anime.
butt in baseball.
But
Yeah.
also, we might have been insensitive to the fact that the rest of the world might not be familiar. So we always do that, guys. So
It's-
insensitive.
I've
Well, but like I might not watch cricket, but I still know what it is. I still know
Right.
that cricket exists.
What's that
well, but-
new sport we've been watching?
handball?
Handball. Have you guys heard of that? That thing's
Yeah.
bizarre.
I think it's smash ball. I don't know. I call it smash trampoline.
The little
ball? I
trampoline
don't
in the
know.
middle.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're just
Uh-huh.
in the it's pretty cool.
I feel like someone was like wasted one day and was like, "Dude, look at your kid's little trampoline. Let's just throw a ball at it." And that's how bounce ball was made.
bounce ball. I feel like, and this is obvious, right? But you can put anything in front of the word ball and pretend it's a sport. But I think that the essence of it comes through, even if you're not a baseball fan, right? You can tell this guy is a dedicated fan of a team that is not doing well, and kind of to the exclusion of all other things in his life, he is a fan of this team that's not doing well, right?
Right.
So Callie
Um,
was confused by Blue Sox,
Oh.
whereas the American people who might listen are going to think Red Sox or White Sox
Right.
100% right away.
Right.
Red Sox and White Sox are actually true American teams. Blue Sox was just another color they picked for copyright
Mm,
infringement
yep.
purposes.
Yep.
But I
Or
know
because
again,
the team is maybe
see,
from Ganymede or something. We don't know.
that's true. So again, sorry if we were being insensitive, but we're on the same page.
Well, and I'm actually I have the privilege to be in direct contact with a lot of our fans and listeners, which is a thing that I really, really love. And they have mentioned that Kylie can be a little insensitive, but I didn't want to say anything. So
So
this
I'm
argument.
just gonna go
in
ahead
the-
and say that's never happened.
So if you can't tell, the running theme for tonight is I just drop the jokes and see what happens. I didn't test any of this. I haven't given anybody a preview
It's
into my
pick
notes.
on everybody day to day. I'm just waiting for you to pick
I'm-
on me.
I think I'm feeling punchy because I didn't have to work today, so I had all day to get ready for the
Okay,
show, and I was
alright.
like, "Oh, you guys, okay, we're gonna
Alright.
put a podcast." Like, I get really excited every week anyway. I think you guys know that. This conversation, though, in this vehicle, feels like Rush Hour pretty much lifted this scene straight from Cowboy Bebop. Like they're sitting in the car
Yeah.
and the one guy is really into whatever and he just won't shut up about it. And then one guy goes, "Hey, did anybody ever tell you that you don't talk much?" And he goes, "Anybody ever tell you that you talk way too much?" Like that's the exact
Totally.
scene from Rush Hour.
Wait,
Yep.
yeah, with Jackie and
Chris Rock.
And
Tucker.
yeah,
Tucker.
Chris, yeah.
Smokey.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like Miles is me. I am Miles. Because I've had that exact same conversation before with someone like that's just a quiet person.
Yeah.
And I go, "Man, you're really quiet." And they go, "Yeah, you're really loud." Like it has
Yeah.
actually happened to me.
I am going to not relate any personal experience for this part of the show.
Please do.
did you
Let's
guys
hear it.
notice-
Come on, let's
no,
do this.
It's the same thing as you, but I didn't have the. But I was on the other side of it, and I didn't say anything. I didn't respond how I wanted to respond. Ricky D, do you have something to contribute to this piece?
Yeah, I'm the quiet guy in this conversation.
Yeah.
And if somebody asks me, you're really quiet, I go, we're not bringing up any interesting topics of conversation. I don't really want to talk about your baseball team.
I don't really care. This is
If we
like
got
Bad
something we
Batch
can
all
both
over
talk
again.
about, cool.
Just
And then-
eyes glazing over and not giving a shit.
Everybody walks away from an interaction with Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D going, "Man, that guy is emotional." So we go to this very cool. Okay, first of all, before we get there, I have to say, I just think it's really neat how Spike puts his thumb up as though he were hitchhiking to a spaceship that's like leaving the atmosphere. That was the futility of that action, right? But
Yeah.
Silly.
the drive to do it regardless is so emblematic of this character, and I love it. But we eventually get to this very cool aircraft graveyard, and this is where Scotty the Miracle Worker lives. And I immediately noticed a helicopter that I immediately identified as a hind, because the last time that I was trying to think of that word was in the Firefly episode Ariel. They had that cool medical craft that I was pretty sure was based on a hind, but I could not think of the name. So this time I wrote down hind, exclamation point. Hind, 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 hind. The helicopter in
Hind,
the
hind.
airplane graveyard is a hind, like in the front of the ship from Ariel. It's a hind.
Oh my goodness.
But I also immediately made a mistake because I wrote, "Oh, it's so cool that the space shuttle exhaust system has been repurposed as an HVAC system for that building." Because I forgot that later on, that building opens up and it's just it's a space shuttle and he flies around in it. But it would be cool if it were repurposed as an HVAC system for a crazy old guy.
I feel like that crazy old guy repurposes those ships for a lot of different things. Like, because Spike is standing there and he's like, "Are you seriously working on this right now?" And he's like, "Hell yeah, I
Well,
am. What do you mean?"
I was gonna say, when you said that you were kind of like Miles, I was thinking of the scene where he's like, "Oh, this is a rare piece or whatever. What if we put in this number piece, part, and it'll like we can upgrade this guy." or
And they just
whatever."
tell him to shut up.
Right, 'cause so you're the one who's like, "Oh, let's upgrade," and then he's like, "No, dude, we gotta keep it OG, like a classic Buick,
And
like."
and you're absolutely right, because he's super excited and I get super excited, and sometimes I don't think things all the way through, and then someone else has to be like, "Actually, no, because if this and this and this happened, then blah blah blah." So
Just
I am
because the
Miles.
crusty old mechanic doesn't want to do your way of doing your way of things, doesn't mean that you're wrong. The
Right.
crusty old mechanic character only wants to do things his way.
True.
He
Right.
only
Right.
sees things through that he only believes things that he has done with his own hands. This is getting a little cathartic for me.
But where do
But,
you think the
No,
crusty
that's the
mechanic?
point.
Where do you think the crusty mechanic learned his stuff from? From another crusty mechanic. I guarantee Duhast was like super excited and wide-eyed when he was a kid, and some old mechanic jackass was like, "Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
not a good idea. You're just
So
gonna
to-
follow what I say." Right?
So to
And he
complete
broke
and
him
take,
down.
to take the analogy all the way to the end, right? When Scotty shows up on the Enterprise D in the episode Relics, he's walking
Mute
around
him,
and
mute
he's
him,
like,
take him
I'm
out.
gonna. No, this is to support your point, Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. I think the point of the episode is to illustrate that the old guy needs to learn flexibility, because once he does, everybody succeeds.
Mhm.
And the whole point that the old guy was making, or that Spike is making to the old guy, is that, hey, dude, you're frequently driving away your assistants, right? Like,
Yeah.
just because that's the way that you've always done it doesn't mean that's the right way to do it. And then he's like, okay, what if I soften 4% and let this guy come with me? Like, I'll see how everything works out. And it works out great.
But then
But-
on the other hand, he is all like super tried and true and very learned and like wise. Whereas, like especially when he says like, I gave you that shit because I knew you could handle it, kind of thing. Like,
Right.
I think that it goes to show that there's value in both sides, but
Right.
that you can't. It's not proper and complete and whole
You
without
gotta
both.
you
kind of
gotta
thing.
weigh it out
Yeah.
correctly. You can't go too heavy-handed with being a jerk, and you can't go too
Can't be
heavy-handed
too
with being
flexible.
yeah.
Adaptability is the key. And that's something that Scotty struggles with because he knew his ship inside and out, but the Enterprise D just kind of doesn't need somebody of his age from his time. So it parallels this episode, specifically. This guy has the oldest, we can clearly surmise that this guy has the oldest ship that we've seen up to this point in the series. It's
Mhm.
literally the Space Shuttle Columbia. So
Which
he has the oldest, and that's, but at the time that this was created, right, it was a nice little look forward and a nice,
I had to go look it up. I
respectful
was like,
thing.
Columbia, wait a minute. And I had to
Yeah.
go Google that shit and be like, oh my God, this episode was in 99. Columbia blew up in 2003.
So that was my last fun fact. I
Oh, I'm
kind of
sorry.
no, it's okay.
I don't know if
What
I'd
I
call
was
it a
saying
fun
is
fact.
it needed to go. I guess it's not very fun. But it needed to go in when we were talking about it. So, but yeah, no, he is absolutely correct. It
Here
happened
comes
just
Kylie and her
merely years.
insensitivity again, you guys. Wow.
I don't think that's fun fact at all.
Yeah.
I
Very
know.
emotional.
I said it was fun, and
wouldn't
I'm
have
just
even
being
labeled that.
insensitive.
Well, the shitty thing is when I take her out, I got to take both of us out.
You know what I appreciate big time about Josh is that he uses a semi-standardized formula with which to take people out of the screen. He applies it almost exactly to everyone, and I think that's really respectable. And I'm
The only one I don't
kidding
do because
Kylie
you're the
and
host,
how
and I
much-
can't really do that to you. So
And again,
Yes.
I appreciate that. I feel like you and I work really well together in the creation of shows here at the Twist My Arm Network, Josh.
agreed.
We'll get, since we already are kind of there, let's just go there. I think the thing with this mechanic doing is that he has this thing where he's like, okay, I know all the steps. If you treat a machine the same every time, the machine will always do the thing, right? So he seems to be always addressing the underlying issue. To his point, he's like, don't worry about the symptom. You need to address the underlying issue. And that works really great if you're working on a machine. But it is kind of the opposite. Like Josh was saying, it's kind of the opposite if you're working with people, right? You need to address the symptoms because those are what people are immediately feeling, and then you can address the underlying issue, and then you have to get people to want to get to the underlying issue with you. So it's definitely a growth moment for both the mechanic and probably his assistant, I would assume.
Miles is probably like, wait, what? You're doing what? Like he's
Right.
coming to terms with the fact that maybe the mechanic does want to work with him.
Yeah, and he's deeply touched by it, Ricky D.
I think we skipped over a little bit where, Faye and Jet are talking about the space pirates. It was a fairly quick scene, but there was a little bit of talk about space pirates. What TV show or movie or video game immediately comes to your guys' head when you think space pirates?
What one doesn't come to my
Guardians of the
head?
Galaxy and Metroid for me personally.
Metroid, that's what I'm thinking. Josh, did you have any? Kylie?
Firefly?
I didn't have anything spring to my mind. No.
Mandalorian.
Yeah, I mean, like,
So honestly, I just like went to the Renaissance Festival on Sunday, and we were totally like really enjoying the fact that everybody had mashed up costumes, and I feel like a space pirate is exactly what I would have expected to see.
Okay, that's a good answer. It's when Space Pirates came up, my first thought was Metroid Prime, and we've got Jesse and Phil, who are also throwing out Metroid, and it's just
Yeah.
it's such
Is
a
Metroid Samus?
yep.
Okay, all right.
Metroid is one of the
Familiar.
original and best
Ooh.
Nintendo franchise.
Cannot
I've
wait for
actually-
the next one to come out.
I'm
I'm
really
so
jealous.
excited.
Never
Phil.
played or was familiar. Obviously Samus I knew from like Smash Bros and stuff like that. So
Titan AE. Oh, shout out to Pixie
I-
for the Titan AE reference. One of
Space
my
Pirates.
favorite movies of all time.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
What?
I know that's I always say that, but
Oh my
we'll
god.
have to check it out.
That's the first song I ever heard Creed
Ooh.
in. Ruined my life, but it was awesome.
What was that movie you were telling me that you just found out that Alan Tudyk?
He was iRobot. Alan
iRobot.
Tudyk was
I
yeah,
just-
robot. in
It
It made me
iRobot.
think of it because of the letter acronyms that we were just saying.
Treasure
and nothing
Planet.
else.
Oh my
Treasure
god.
Planet from Space Castle. I gotta say, I'm a little bit jealous of Phil. He's been playing Fusion all day. That's definitely the one to play if you want to get ready for. I think it's called Metroid Dread.
Yeah,
Dude, yeah.
Seems to be a direct sequel.
I've got
But
the
yeah,
Metroid.
definitely Treasure Planet. Sorry, Ricky D, go ahead.
Oh, I've got the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Wii, where
Mhm.
they remade it and they put all three of them together. I just need to suck it up and get used to those motion controls because I love the Metroid Prime series, but I hate motion controls, and it's just this horrible conflict in my gamer brain.
What are motion controls?
That
The
moment when-
Wii, you know, the on the motion controls for the
Okay.
Wii.
See, I was thinking, you know what I can't do? I can do that, but I like, gosh, when you're doing the shooty games on your PlayStation or whatever, and one joystick looks around and the other one moves around, I'm just like, I don't know.
one is your feet and one is your head. So these
It's too
pirates. I actually did write down would like a Guardians / Bebop crossover. I think that might be cool. But the shot of when Faye is playing bait, right? The shot of her eyes moving in the opposite direction of her hands when she was trying to figure out what to do, I thought was really like true to life and very effectively kind of disorienting, where you have those moments where you're like, I know I have some kind of idea what to do, but I don't know where to start with what to do. We have a question in the live chat for you from Space Castle, Josh. Getting back to terrible teams, thoughts on Teddy Bridgewater as a starting QB for the Broncos?
I'm trying to figure out this thing for Rona. I don't have time for that right
Oh,
now.
no
Space
worries.
Castle must know Josh.
Space Castle is a very good indie podcast that I
Yeah.
have listened to a couple of times, and I believe they've been here in our chat once or twice. And
Okay.
I believe their point of connection with the show was actually the first time we started talking about terrible quarterbacks in Denver. If I'm not
I
mistaken.
love it. That's too funny. I did just hear that news today, but I don't know anything about Broncos. So
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know
I'm cool. It doesn't matter. Our defense is going to destroy everyone out there. So
Josh was kind of pro Julock though. So
kinda.
I mean, I think that we just wanted him to succeed.
He was pro Brock Osweiler, I believe.
I was the
Oh.
Brock Ness monster,
The
bro.
Brock Ness
Phil still also has the GameCube version of Metroid Prime and Metroid Echoes.
Me
Phil-
too. I have it. I play it on my Wii, but I have the mini disc from
Mhm.
GameCube for those.
Do we have it working Wii right now?
We have two of them. Yeah,
Would they both work? Anyway,
absolutely.
I'm sorry. Getting off topic. Moving on.
No, you're okay. I love that Ed looks at Ein like it's his fault for pressing the enter key. Like when that was kind of the same thing that Ed was just about to do. Like she typed up this whole big hacker thing and then she was going to hit enter, but then Ein presses it and something goes wrong, which was clearly Ed's fault. But she looks at Ein like, dude,
Can't believe you just did that.
come on, man. And I think that might be the first time we've seen Ed not succeed with a computer thing of some kind.
I mean,
Every
what?
time I see Ed and Ein enter the picture, my immediate thought is they're about to fix everything.
Right,
They
everything
don't
will be
really run into
fine.
conflict. They're just this pure beings of correct energy or something like
Right,
that.
right. You know, nothing bad is like truly bad is gonna happen if they're in the scene. I mean,
But
not
did it-
necessarily, but it feels like it.
But did it bother you that she failed? Like, were you like, oh, this is new? Or were you like, okay, everything, I mean, maybe there's a different resolution this time?
Oh, there she is. Hey, Rona. I was just
Yay!
figuring out how to get you in here. I was trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm glad you got in here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, Rona. We are glad to
Thanks
have
for
you
the
here.
effort,
She
yeah.
says,
Yeah.
can't get comments to work on YouTube. Huh.
That's really strange.
Maybe we're in like subscriber only mode or something. I don't know what's going on. But we are so happy to have you here because we are not that far through this episode. Now, another similarity here that Doohan has with Scotty, he can just hear that the accelerator pump is completely shut just by listening to the engine. Just how Scotty could tell how fast the Enterprise was going by feeling the vibrations in the floor panels. It's some very direct connective stuff here, you guys. It's like pretty clearly that there was a huge Trekkie on the team somewhere. Or maybe there was multiple, but either way, it was very cool. The second point that I had written down in support of the mechanic being kind of treating people the wrong way because he was trying to work on them like machines, is that the way that he communicates is very matter of fact, right? So what I wrote down was probably a relatable thing for me, but it will further expose me as the functioning narcissist that I am.
I'm already prepared to be mad at the mechanic. So
I wrote
let's
down,
go. I'm ready for it too.
It's hard to temper confidence when things need done and you think you know how to do them. And that's a thing that some people need to work on. And that's, I think, part of the lesson for the mechanic in this episode is like, just because you know the exact way or number of steps to do this doesn't mean that you should A, dismiss other people, or B, talk down to them, or B, assume that they know the same steps as you. So I think that that's definitely part of the character's arc. And he gets a pretty good arc for somebody who's only in this episode for a total of maybe 9 minutes or something like that. He's not in the whole thing, right? I know he's in a lot of it, but he's not in all of it. What did you guys think?
I was gonna say 9 minutes is like, half the episode.
Almost.
Close.
I'm just being facetious.
I mean, he was one of my favorites, and it makes sense because Scotty was one of my favorites.
Totally.
So,
I don't know. I'm also a sucker for the wise old men. Anyway,
Oh my god!
I'm not talking about Bruce Campbell.
There
I'm like
she is
talking
being
as like a
insensitive about
freaking
me again, calling me
father
old.
figure, sage kind of thing. Not
Oh,
not saying I have a crush on Doohan. Okay.
I thought you meant that she was
later,
calling
guys.
you out by mentioning that she was into the type that you are not, but that's okay.
Oh, I got one quick.
Well, he's not very wise, but he is a little old.
I was good. Wow.
I'm just kidding. I'm
Jeez.
just kidding. It's the
I
other way
was-
around. That's why it's funny.
Okay. If you guys thought I was picking on people, go ahead, Ricky D from Best Flicks
See,
with Ricky
you're
D.
being insensitive
Yeah.
again.
We're talking about how this mechanic character, in my mind, he's like automatically assuming that everything that Miles does is wrong. When Miles comes back at one point, the mechanic, what's the mechanic's name?
Duhan.
Doohan.
Doohan.
Doohan. Thank you.
Doohan.
Doohan
Doohan
goes
is-
marching right past him and goes, "Where's the paperwork?" And Miles goes, "It's right on the pilot seat, exactly where it's supposed to be." And it reminded me of these conflicts I've had in my life where people are just like, "Where'd you put this?" Exactly where it's supposed to be. Where is this? What happened here? I did exactly what you guys wanted me to.
Yep.
So here we are.
And those
Isn't
are the
that frustrating
people.
too.
Those are the people that are addressing the root cause and not the symptom, right? Because they're like, I don't have, or rather, sorry, the other way around. They're like, I don't have this thing. Something must have gone wrong somewhere down the line. And it's like, well, the actual thing that went wrong is you didn't go to where you told people to put that thing because you assumed they were incompetent. Like, but it's there. Just go check.
Mhm.
Did
So-
you look?
It's my favorite thing to ask people in my job.
Yeah.
Hey, do we have any of this here? I don't know. Did you look?
Do you guys remember that video that I sent you of the guy that made the song for where you should ask people if they've checked if they're missing an item?
Yes.
I think I do remember that
I love that song.
because that's great.
I will not mention it here in mixed company with the live chat, but if you'd like, follow me on Twitter @SuddenButt and ask me about the funny "Where Did You Lose Your Items" song, and I will send it to you. Moving right along, I love that it's, to continue the theme of this episode, Jet's pride is kind of what gets him all worked up here, right? And that's definitely consistent with his character. Of course, the black dog, once he bites a hold of something, he doesn't let go. But the thing that made him so mad is like that they insulted his ship. Like, yeah, they tried to, steal Faye's ship and maybe kill her in the process, or we're not really sure, like, but he's very upset that they called his ship a piece of junk. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, man, that's pride messing with you. But
Oh,
it fits
wow.
because there are multiple characters in this episode that have issues with pride. But I do really like that I feel like this is the first moment that we've had so far where Spike shows actual confidence in Faye when they go up to the 2 penguin shipping trailers. He goes, "You take that one, I've got this one." Right? Is that just him trusting her to get it done? Like, is that
What
the
if
first
he
time he's
already
trusted her?
knew which transport had what he was looking for?
It's true. He has really good eyes, and that's been a point that's been brought up multiple times. I wonder. But to that
I think he was
point-
just using her. He just kept calling her bait. I think he really hoped that she got like killed or something.
Well, she was bait at the start, and she was suddenly fine with that, apparently. The last time that she was
Yeah.
to be used as bait, she was not fine with it. But maybe that was because it was a child's idea last time.
She's just your typical trifling lady.
Well, and
Way to be insensitive.
Yep. You know me.
Jesse is crushing it
That's what
today.
That's what they call She's like, that's what they call me at work. All insensitive Kylie.
Oh my God, let's not even go there.
We know
Kylie's
that that's
not for everybody. We've learned that.
Okay, you guys.
Not
I just had
because
an
I'm
idea.
insensitive, though.
I just had an idea for a T-shirt. Is this the? I love-
would.
The first time that I watched this episode, I was sort of live tweeting some pieces of it, and I forgot that there was a character in this episode with a Boston accent. And I love when Faye finally catches these space Boston space truckers. He's like, "We'll pay the parking ticket. I'm sorry."
Packing.
The packing ticket.
They spell it wrong in the captions too.
It's packing.
They
Oh,
they
used
spell
an
it
R.
parka. We're gonna play the parka.
We're gonna
ticket.
play a paca ticket.
But to be fair, if you're not a native English speaker,
Yep, makes
that's
sense.
how people from New England sound.
See,
Yep.
I like Rosie's confirmation here. I think the shirt should say, "Kylie's not for everyone, but she is for me."
Oh, that's not bad. We'll put that on the back. I could see that.
And I can give it to all my friends.
Our friend Callie D in the live chat says Jesse is just and a burn for you and a burn for you. Here's a burn for you. I think that makes me the Oprah of burns, which
Serving up fried eggs
Burn
over
for
here.
you. Burn for you.
those of you watching live at home, look under your chair. I'm totally
Yeah. It's a magic
Jesse and I have
show.
spent all week driving around the world
This is
to
why
tape things under your
sneaking
chair.
into your homes.
This is why we were 3 minutes late tonight. You guys.
We're gonna get arrested.
Not if nobody tells anyone. The basically uncontrolled free fall into crispy burning oblivion. Is this the highest tension moment that we've had so far outside of any episode with Vicious, maybe?
Well, Spike kind of assuaded any of the any tension because he's just like, all right, here we go. Before he even went out there, I think no, that was when he was dressed like a mummy.
Right.
But he felt like he was prepared to die. I think he was just undercutting
Yeah.
any tension. He was just like, all right, this is how it goes. I've been out
Well,
here fighting, and
me-
I'm gonna go down eventually.
Well, to me, that is increasing the tension, though, because up till now he's just been ultra confident in every fight and been like, yeah, it's just another this, it's just another that. I've done this before. Like when the fortune teller was telling him like, oh, death and a woman, he'll go, yeah, I've been killed before at the hands of a woman. Don't worry about it. So it feels like maybe his semi-self-destructive tendencies are increasing in trajectory. Maybe. That's a poor pun because it's a trajectory-based plot here, but this is actually the next very similar Star Trek thing. So before I jump into that, if Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D or Josh or Kylie has any notes that they feel like I have jumped past up to the point where Spike is about to crash into this planet, please go ahead now.
We didn't talk about the spaceship Columbia actually coming out of that hangar, with Duhan, all of that. But I thought I loved the moment. I loved the moment when like the whole hangar opened up and allowed it out, and it's like everybody's getting in their spaceships, everybody's getting ready to fight, and then this guy actually has an old U.S. space shuttle,
Like a space shuttle.
and then it even like it takes a while to take off, the same way a real
Yeah.
space shuttle would. You're like forcing all of this energy against gravity, and it's just slowly taking off.
They
I
had to
thought
like
that was
wheel
really
it
cool.
out and raise it up and do all the things. Like it was, they were like, "Hey guys, it's the '90s. You know how space shuttles work? We got one of those, so we're
So
gonna use that."
I want to just say at the end of this conversation, before we move on to the next episode, I would love to share another fun fact, but it's actually about Kylie and it's related.
Oh,
I just want to throw it out there.
Here we
okay. Go for
Are
it.
we ready? Are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
So my grandpa was a biochemist, and he ended up, his legacy was that he patented a certain sort of glass. It's Corning glass is something that some people are familiar with. It's from Corning, New York. My grandpa helped kind of patent some of that Corning glass, but in return, or I'm sorry, and it eventually he ended up working with other scientists, and he patented the glass that was used on the Hubble telescope.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Wow.
Wow.
My grandpa,
That's
and I don't
cool.
want to say his name because then I'd give my last name away, but my grandpa totally patented the glass for the Hubble telescope.
Is Kylie's last name not Armcast?
It is.
It is.
Oh,
Dang it.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. It's William Armcast. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I always thought that was a super fun fact. I just think that's really cool that my grandpa was.
Agreed.
I never got to know him.
Yeah.
But I love to just, carry on his memory by telling everybody how awesome and smart he was. So
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm digging that. Josh,
I wonder
did
if they
you
use
have
that
any-
same glass for the ships or the space shuttles or anything. Do
You
think
know,
they use any
I
of
think
that?
it's possible. I don't want to say that, he created this glass or something, but he did help patent with a
patent it,
bunch of
yeah.
other scientists
Right.
glass that was strong enough and special enough that you could use on a telescope. I would imagine that, I mean, it was sold and patented with NASA.
Yeah.
So
Wait a
if they
minute.
found that it was strong enough for other things, I would imagine that they, use my grandpa's patent. So I
Did
think
he
that's really
invent-
cool.
Did he invent transparent aluminum?
No, that'd be cool. But let's say he did. Let's say yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Phil in the chat says wicked smart.
Wicked smart.
Wait, he see, and yeah,
Good
he's
job.
he's from New York, so yeah, they're pretty wicked smart up
Yeah.
up there.
Speaking of wicked smart, the last note I had was those pirates are super smooth. Like they're good pirates. You know,
For the
they
most
got
part,
caught
yeah.
the second time, but the first time they got away and they did a good job doing it. And they really wrecked the Bebop, I feel like.
And it only took them
computer wise.
like 1,000 shots to catch Spike on their hook. So that wasn't bad, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The second time. So the first time they ran into the pirates, they got wrecked. Like, but when
Right.
Spike's there, because obviously Spike's,
The man.
the Deus Machina.
Mhm.
So like he, had to be better than them.
So this moment where Spike is angling down into the atmosphere, he's burning up, he's got no fuel left. He does this very cool, like etching a gauge on his inside his canopy glass so that he can use that to estimate angles of descent, etc. This is very similar to an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation in which a boy named Jake steals a shuttlecraft and Captain Picard has to manually talk him through bouncing said shuttlecraft off of the atmosphere of a planet so that he doesn't die.
can
and
we
explode.
all agree
It's
that there's been
basically the exact same plot. There's a character named Dewin. There are too many similarities to call this a coincidence. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D.
I'm not going to call it a coincidence, but can we all agree there's been enough episodes of Star Trek that you can probably find connections between Star Trek and anything that's ever going to happen ever again?
The Simpsons thing.
Yes, the same with
Simpsons
The
theory.
Simpsons.
I
Yeah,
get it.
right, yeah,
I get
yeah.
it. Yeah. Okay.
So-
That's right. Next week, I'm going to do a Simpsons Did It bit every 10
That's-
seconds.
Sorry,
That's
Star Trek
actually-
is so wildly successful. Sorry.
Yeah, it's actually a great point, Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Star Trek just celebrated as a franchise their 800th episode ever. So
55th anniversary was this year.
See,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. I
Yeah.
mean, I like to make fun of
It is very
Jesse
cool.
like for it, but I mean that's pretty impressive.
yeah, it's totally on me that they've been around forever.
I have to do it
So-
ironically because I still love Star Trek, but I'm
So
still
does
such a
Kylie.
huge Star Wars fan that like I just have to.
I'm honestly
I
not
don't
really
know.
on either of those trains. I'm
Some-
over
sometimes
on
I-
the nerd.
Sometimes
nerd
I
I'm not-
feel bad for talking shit because I'm like, I actually like, I like that.
I'm not necessarily anti Star Trek. I'm just anti Jesse's Star Trek stories.
I'm just anti Jesse, really.
He's anti mirth. I think we know
Yes.
this about Ricky D. From Best Friends
Yes.
with Ricky D.
That's
I'm
awesome.
having another T-shirt idea. So I love that we get this very cool moment of tension. This feels to me like this is the first time Spike isn't sure if he's going to make it, and of course, like Ricky was saying, of course he's still fine with that. But
What do you say?
I
Whatever
had
happens,
a-
happens.
yeah, and I had a moment. You remember in I think it was the second Matrix movie when Trinity falls off the building and Neo just barely catches her, and the guy in the chair goes, "He caught her." That was the same feeling that I had when Doohan ejected his cargo. Spike angled the swordfish's left fin into it to
Mhm.
create drag for himself, and then
Yep.
detach manually the other wing so that he could safely land pillow soft smooth into the cargo bay of the space shuttle. It was just, I went, he got him. And then I love that the next line we get is, yeah, don't worry, we are not safe yet. And then we get a crash landing, but we don't see the crash landing. We just get to see the photo that they took after it where they're like, can you believe we're alive? Directly to Josh. Did that upset you? Did that feel like they cheated you out of the
I knew,
end of
I
the
knew
episode,
this was
or
gonna.
what?
I knew this was coming.
Or just they only, I mean, think about it. They really only cheated you out of like 10 seconds of footage, right? I would say they took less from you in this than they did from Toys in the Attic, if you really want to be serious about it.
So I wasn't as disappointed on this because of Toys in the Attic, because like after watching that and then getting reamed by you guys about, well, it's not a serialized show, it's episodic. So after the fact, I was like, okay, that's okay. The next episode's going to be completely different, and all this is going to be resolved somehow, and that's fine with me. I'm okay with that.
I appreciate
So-
that. Phil in the chat says, yeah, but he missed an explosion. Go ahead, Kylie.
I'd like to address Callie D in the chat here, and I wanted to stick up for Ricky. There are plenty of things about Jesse's character that we could point out, but we love him and we don't want to hurt his feelings. So Star Trek is the only thing that makes sense to go after.
Whoa.
I think, and to be,
Ricky,
if
do you
we're-
agree?
if we're going to be real, I think we all know that there's nothing that any of you could say that would make me feel bad enough to stop the show.
I've been
So,
trying for 20
Oh.
years.
We can,
Seriously, there's nothing we could say that would even make him feel bad about himself, even for a second.
even if it were true, it wouldn't
Mhm.
matter. So, but it's
Anywho.
important that we're all on the same page, at least.
Right.
Equally tied back to the Matrix. It says know thyself.
Callie
Phil-
says, "Oh, Josh, be mad about this," and I might have been normally, but I think I've gotten past the serial thing here,
Right.
and I'm just enjoying the episodes for what they are at this
And
point.
if I
like,
may,
trying to
I
be a
think
kid again.
right. I think it's really cool that our listeners and viewers, as they're watching, are picturing our reactions. Like they know how certain of us are going to react to things, and they're just waiting for it to happen on the stream. So I think that's really
Right.
cool. Thank you very much, Callie D, for the support as always.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have any other non-segment related notes for this first episode, so let's do a quick round. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Do you have any notes? And then we'll go Josh and Kylie.
I do not have any more notes. All right,
Me
so we don't
neither.
have any notes, but I do have to point out we're making it through the first episode in under an hour. That's a
Oh, you're
landmark.
right.
That's
Killing
a
it,
landmark
killing
for this podcast.
Let's ease up on the gas and slow this second episode way down.
You mean
Just for
you mean,
Ricky.
and I gotta say this before Kylie goes into it. You mean Cowboy Batman?
Oh, the next episode. Cowboy
I made
Batman.
very similar notes, Josh. I am very appreciative of that point. Kylie, if you would, please take it away with the synopsis for session 20, Pierrot Le Fou, and then append your fun facts as always.
All right. Yes. Or session. I almost said episode. Excuse me. Session 20. Le Fou. Spike takes a beating during a chance encounter with an indestructible assassin. While Jet searches for the secret, I can't even read my own handwriting. For the secret to the madman's powers, Spike goes looking for payback. So yeah, just to recap that because I don't know, I kind of did botch that up. But this is the one with the really cool, crazy, indestructible assassin. Um, so this the title is actually not a classic rock music themed one, but Pierrot Le Fou is a 1965 film. Jean-Luc Godard. Sad Clown is kind of like what it is known for or whatever, and it's kind of a trope that you see even in art. You got your sad clowns and things like that. So
Very apropos
definitely an
here.
influential thing in culture. Other than that, I do just got to say that one of the songs I noticed right away just because Pink Floyd is my very favorite, but the Seatbelts covered On the Run by Pink Floyd. And honestly, I think that that was like the most perfect song for what the episode was and what they were showing. It was like so much more intense with that dang song, and I think that they did an awesome job with that. Um, Other than that, I do have some more fun facts, but I think that this is also another situation where it might be better to place them as we talk about them.
All right.
Yes.
And to that point, I feel like there's definitely some heavy, like Josh was saying, there's definitely some creepy Batman vibes and stuff, right? But to your point about the music, perfect choice. Maybe you could call it on the nose, right? You could maybe call all the musical choices in this show on the nose because they're written specifically for what is put on the screen. In this case, it's a cover, right? But the rest of the music is
True.
original to what's happening. And
But I think if I remember correctly, just from my research, I think that this is really one of the only true covers, whereas all
Right.
of the other ones were original songs.
right, and I feel like in the way that you forgive the specificity of how on the nose these things are, you do it because they're mashing so many tropes and like cultural pieces and influences together that the on the nose music really helps as like your signpost, right? You're like, okay, this is a slow episode, this is a waltz,
This is how
a
I should be
strut.
feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a samba, this is whatever it may be, this has heavy metal in it. um but I feel like for that reason you forgive those things, and I think for the same reason I forgive just lifting a cover of a very on the nose set of lyrics, right? Because it's like, dude, that's the best choice anyway, so just go with it. And I feel like there's almost nothing in this show that I get upset with them going, that was the easiest way to do things. Callie D in the chat says, isn't Gaston's sidekick in Beauty and the Beast called Le Fou? Yes, I believe he is called Le Fou.
And I think that Phil is actually correct. In French, it means the fool or the clown.
Yes. So, and it's both a name and a title, right?
Correct.
He's Le Fou. And it definitely the sad clown thing that you were mentioning, because the sadness of this clown is rough, and I don't feel like you really get it until the last moment with him, or last couple moments with him, because up till then you're like, this guy is the Joker mixed with Jack the Ripper mixed with Batman, and that's not good for anybody. But I really liked the use of misdirection that Spike has in his first fight with him, where he's like throwing trash bags to one side and then ducks out the other side and starts firing, and then when the guy gets close to him, he's trying to throw trash in his face and all this stuff, and it was just
It was desperation.
Well, I think
Yeah.
it was
I think
really.
that I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, babe.
I'll
Sorry.
say that first 3 shots that he shot at him and they like reflected out of his chest, he was like, "Oh my god, what am I going to do now?" And so he was just throwing everything he possibly could in like a desperate mode, He got crazy
But
there.
it was still kind of cool that he still was able to, I don't want to say get the better of him because obviously we know that didn't happen, but he was smart enough to think of a way that could possibly have defeated this foe, tried to go with it, didn't work kind of thing. I don't know. It's just impressive. If anybody was going to beat this man, it had to have been Spike kind of thing. So.
Right.
Yeah. He was crazy. I love that first fight scene too, where he's floating like a balloon. Like when you're a kid and you hit a balloon up in the air and it floats a little bit
Yeah.
and then slowly comes
Mhm.
down. Like this dude is just, I call him Penguin Joker, but he's just like floating up in the air and kicking him and then floating back down and then kicking again. And like,
I think what I liked
awesome.
about that and the whole episode as a whole was that it was like a horror
yes.
episode. I mean, it was scary. It was like this guy wasn't a person, he was an entity, he was a spirit, he was a whatever you want to call it. And I
Borderline
think that that's what made
supernatural.
him so scary
Mhm.
is he wasn't a beatable foe. So I just
I
think
want
it's neat.
I want to echo something that Callie put in the chat. This was another one of those episodes where I finished it and went, "What did I just watch?" Because
Yeah.
I watched this episode and I was just confused most of the time. I didn't get the Batman references. I don't really have, other than the Nolan trilogy, I don't know much about Batman at all. So I totally missed out on those.
I don't know that they were references so much as just vibes that we were feeling, kind of
yeah.
that gothic, Victorian sort of noir feeling, old school detective story, because we do have that going on in the background of this episode. And I think that some of those tall angles, guy
Mhm.
running around tall buildings dark at night, that feels Batman-y. And then just the big smile, right? Like the crazy, insane smile, and he's grinding his teeth all the time, and he's drooling a little bit. Like that's Joker-y, which is Batman-y, I guess. But I was really happy to see Ed and I not involved in this story at all. Like there was one shot of them where Ed was kind of laying on the ground with her head hanging off the step, and there was no music and for a second I was like, why are they doing this? Like this is a creepy setup to this shot. I don't like this. And then Ed went up, or Ein went up to Ed and was like, hey, are you good? And then of course Ed woke up and was just yawning and being silly and adorable the whole time, and using doubles on all her nouns for some reason. Fei, we got mail from the Bebop. Like,
Smoke.
yeah, I was just, it was enough comic relief and emotional safety in the scenes with Ed and Ein in this episode to get me through it, right? But other than that, yeah, very high tension, like teeth grindy episode.
So I'm gonna steal Kylie's fun fact because I'm just really excited about the way this episode is. This is literally a Batman episode. The creator Sunrise Company worked on Batman the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
Like they also did things for that. And so, and again, sorry Kylie, I'm stealing this because I'm just so excited about it that I was right. But there's the scene at the end with the carnival when they're all fighting in the carnival and stuff. It's very reminiscent of The Killing Joke, the Batman story, The Killing Joke. And literally on the Cowboy Bebop wiki, they said that this was based on The Killing Joke, and the three characters are, and I said, I called him the Penguin Joker. Well, the characters that this guy's based off of is Penguin, Joker, and Tallyman, which I don't know anything about Tallyman, but if you look at the pictures of this guy, it's like almost to the T.
Yep.
I mean, all you needed to do is add the grinding noise sound effect to this guy, and
That was so visceral.
oh, it hurt.
Did Josh mention that as soon as he heard that he thought of me, kind of thing?
No.
Oh my god,
Oh,
I grind my
he
teeth
did.
real bad, and
So-
so it like freaks me out.
So Kylie grinds her teeth at night when she sleeps, which is, I just have to kick her. It's like when I snore, she kicks me. When she grinds, I kick her. So
We
it's,
just kick each other all night long.
but when he was grinding his teeth, it was worse than anything you have ever done.
I
ever.
honestly, I didn't even notice,
Like-
which I think is funny because I'm
Oh
like, I
my-
must just grind my teeth.
Oh my God. It was brutal. It hurt my teeth to hear it. It was crazy.
But just to add to what Josh said, I think what's fun is The Killing Joke was, a comic that had been out for quite some time. But by the time this episode aired, it wasn't
Wasn't show.
live action. And I didn't actually get to look, but we were thinking that maybe Sunrise Animation actually had a part in that as well.
I did not get to look at that, but I will look.
I'm
Yeah,
just thinking so because when he was watching it, I remember being super interested, and I think the reason that was is because I like recognized that animation and was just into it.
So my immediate thought when we got to, and we can jump back to talk about a couple of details prior to this, but my immediate thought when we got to Spaceland and Spike was being all disoriented by all the attractions and stuff, shout out to Phil in the chat because I feel like you're going to know what I'm talking about. I was immediately reminded of the Golden Saucer. Anybody? Final Fantasy VII?
nah,
Mm.
nope.
Gosh, I haven't played that since I was a kid. I mean, I don't know, we
It's
did
okay.
get that remake, and we just haven't played it all the way through.
I did the same thing. I played like the first hour. I was like, this is amazing. And then I looked at my phone and went, I have to make a podcast. So,
Such is life.
you know what? Best kind of problem to have, if I do say so myself.
So to continue my own path of misconception on this episode, when I saw that creepy dark carnival, I thought it looked like a Mario 64 level. Maybe something out of Banjo Kazooie because they got a
You
little
didn't
bit
get
darker.
Disneyland vibes.
How did you
I
not
mean,
get Donkey Kong Country 2 when they're on the actual like
Oh,
mouse thing?
Yeah.
The mouse, like
the cart levels.
Yeah.
Did we not notice that he absolutely murdered Goofy and stuff like that? I mean,
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
it was
I
definitely Disneyland or
Oh, yeah.
World or whatever.
For sure.
what I wrote, Goofy in a Donald outfit and being creepy is creepy.
Oh, and it was weird, and he's all like animatronic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not-
you guys
not-
have all these good good comparisons that they were clearly going for, and I just totally missed out on this episode. I feel like this might be one of my favorite episodes in the future for like rewatches and that kind of thing. But right now, this episode just went right over my head. I totally missed out on
So,
all of this stuff.
Going
So-
back to what Phil said in the chat, is he said that this is one of the first episodes he remembers seeing on Adult Swim, and same here. So I think that maybe that's why I wasn't as confused, is because I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember this one, and I remembered that the Pink Floyd song was in there, and
well,
I remembered this one the most, I think.
I think in the internetosphere where fans of Cowboy Bebop hang out, I believe Pierrot Le Fou is one of the lower ranked episodes in the series. And I would imagine that it has something to do with other people feeling a similar way to Ricky D, where like if you didn't have, because everybody didn't have a universal experience of going to Disneyland or of, you know, playing Final Fantasy VII or of reading The Killing Joke or that sort of a thing. So it's like you run a risk when you're mashing a ton of tropes and references together of alienating some part of the audience, right? And I feel like this might be the first episode where that happened to a fairly significant portion of the audience for this show, because up till now, correct me if I'm wrong, Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, but up till now, I feel like you've just been having a blast and going, oh, this is definitely a reference to that. I dig the gangster vibes. I dig the crime vibes, you know. So it's going to happen at some point, and I would tend to agree with you, though, Josh, where it's like, I don't think this is a bad episode at
No,
all.
and I don't think it's a bad episode.
Right,
I just
yeah.
I feel like I swung and missed it this one.
See, and I think that's, if I can be whatever this is for a moment, I think that's kind of my favorite thing about you, Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, is that when we started this whole thing, you said that you wanted to be the person for whom quality is the most important factor when you watch a show. And I feel like you've actually really shown that by example, because you're not at the point where you're like, okay, it's for kids because it's animated, or like, yeah, I get that it's adult themes, but it's still kind of kid-like, and, you know, I can't really get into it. Like, I can tell that you're genuinely enjoying yourself, and that, like, to kind of feel flanked by this episode is a thing that is real but relatable that's coming from you. And I think that's my favorite thing about doing this show with you, is that you really set this, like, here's how I'm going to do this, and you're actually doing that. So thank you, Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. People in the live chat, sound off. Don't we just love Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D?
Here comes Jesse trying to make up for all the dick
For being
things
a
he said
jerk.
this whole episode.
I haven't said anything untrue, or I haven't said anything that I would take back.
It's not an insult if it's true.
Oh man.
See, Kylie totally
And-
gets it.
And it's funny because this is one of my favorite episodes. Like, I caught most of the references almost immediately. Like, one of the first notes that I have is the graphics are very like their computer graphics too, and they're not the normal kind of graphics that you see in Cowboy Bebop. They're completely different. Like the cityscape is moving instead of the camera panning down on a poster, it's the actual
It was very
like
Batman.
animation.
It was
And
they did it.
yeah,
They executed
absolutely.
it the way that they would have done a Batman episode, and I think that that's, gosh, I like remember we were just talking. I used to watch Batman with my brother growing up, kind of thing, and then it like transformed into Dragon Ball Z and Adult Swim kind of stuff. That's all Sunrise Animation. So I think that there's just something, and so that's why I'm just going to go back and say that I did not say Avatar was better animation. I just said it was more like
Why you gotta open that can again?
Hey, Kylie. Yeah, you did. I edit the show. I promise you, you said it. Now, on the second episode after that, you modified it, but the first time, that is what you said. I promise you.
I
Go ahead
said
and
that
send
it's,
me that clip and we'll
yeah,
play it next week.
I
I
would
will.
love to hear that. Yeah, so you can call me out. But
No,
hey,
because the week following, you went. What I meant was this, that I think you said something about how the animation technique had changed, so you didn't initially mean better. But I promise you, the
Just
first
different.
time that you said better, because why else would I have taken such fake exception to it and decided, well, now I'm
Right.
gonna watch it? And
Why
rage
would
tweet
you have noted it and
the
made
whole
fun
time?
of me
Yeah,
this whole time if I didn't
exactly.
actually say it? You're right.
You're right. I would have found something else. It would not have been that specific. Now, what are we talking? Where are we at in this episode, you guys?
We were just talking about just the references and like how this is one of my
Oh,
my
right.
favorite
Yes,
episodes
yes.
because of the fact that there were so many
Yes.
awesome references that I relate to from my childhood. Like even if I was a kid back in the day watching this, I'd be like, "Oh my god, I just played Donkey Kong Country 2 and this reminds me so much of that." Like
Yep.
I just got back from Disney World. I just watched
And
Space Jam and I'm pretty sure that that's the same park that they went to in Space Jam.
well, and to the point of references, the show is getting to the point now, even in the last couple of weeks. If you guys have, I think you guys have noticed. I think some of your notes brought them up specifically, but the show is starting to reference itself now,
Mm.
right? Things that have already happened in the show.
Yes, like
Um,
the cigarette thing. Yeah.
the cigarette thing, and we've got Spike bandaged up on a couch, and Faye is just standing over him, lording her mobility over him, I guess is the
You're
nicest way
not
to
normally
say it.
like this.
She's like, well, and she's like, look at me, I can just walk around and do whatever I want. Also, I
And
can
eat
talk
your
because my
orange
mouth's
that
not
you were just
bandaged
trying
up.
to eat.
Yeah, she takes any opportunity she can to lord anything
See,
she
she
can over
lost
anyone.
those 3 points she gained last week.
Hey,
Jerk.
she was willingly bait in the last episode. Uh,
Yes.
2 points then.
we do get this. By the way, Jet has got to be running out of favors from cops at this point. But we do get this narration from a cop that says nobody's seen this guy's face and lived to tell about it. So we already know that Spike is better than most people that have fought this guy, right? And then he goes, and those that do get hunted down. And I'm like, well, you don't really hunt Spike down. Like, and then immediately we find out that that doesn't happen. He just sends him an invite, and Spike's like, yeah, I'll be there. That's fine. But
Whatever happens, happens.
I like that to find out who this guy is, Jet asks Ed for a favor. He doesn't just talk to Ed like implying that she has to do what he says. He asks her for a favor. He says, hey, kid, can you look a thing up for me? Like, I just think that's
Do
really
you think
cool.
you can hack into this?
Right. He poses it as a challenge so that she'll do it. Yeah.
And she's like, "Pfft, yeah. I
Well,
know, and I love her answer to it. She no hesitation. Yes.
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 I
And
think
I think
she's
that-
just so innocent that you can't be mean to her.
I think one of
know?
the major differences that you're pointing out, Jesse, is Jet treats Ed like a person. Faye generally treats Ed like a tool.
Right.
Mm.
Go
And
do
everyone
this.
else,
Go
but-
do that.
Faye treats people like tools.
Yeah,
For the
I'll
most
I'll
part.
agree with that.
Yeah,
But
well,
there's-
tools normally treat people like tools, I guess.
She's
Definitely
only around because
some-
she finds some sort of benefit from the dudes. I mean,
Right.
she
And there's
knows
a
that she's
little bit
better off
of-
with them than alone.
Which actually goes right into my next point, which is you definitely can see some developing Mal and Inara vibes in the scene where she's like, okay, don't tell Spike about this because otherwise, and he's like, I'll just go there and get killed.
Right.
Like that was totally the kind of conversation
Yes.
that Inara
then
would be telling
later-
Kaylee, don't
Yeah.
tell him.
Right, yeah. Kaylee is Ed is the Kaylee. But no, I agree. And then towards the end, he goes, I don't remember exactly what he says, but something like, if this would have happened, would you have come to save me, kind of thing. Like, and I'm like, oh, little good flirtatious vibes here.
I'll be honest. I was like a little flustered. I was like, damn, that was hot. Like, that was a well delivered line. Would you come save me? I was
Would you
like,
come
Ooh.
save me?
I would.
And she's
I
like,
would.
she doesn't really say anything.
She's like, I guess.
It's not really
Maybe.
how
You gonna
I
pay
was
me?
written, but
Can I eat after that? You got food?
Yeah, right.
I thought it was really funny that when Ed brought her the mail, she's like, "Hey, we got some mail." She's like, "I would have paid for it if I had just had a couple more days." Like she assumes that it's an overdue bill, but it's not even mail for her. And he's like, "Oh, no, it's for a party on wait, was it on Mars? Where was the party?
Spaceland.
But where was Spaceland? Was that on Jupiter?
I think it's
Did
Mars.
they say where it was? I don't remember.
Here, I'll
But I
look it
love
up real quick. I got it right
I
here.
love Spaceland.
It just it reminded me so much of Space Jam. Don't
Yeah.
bring me anymore anymore, all right? That's the
Right?
one thing that yeah.
So this technotronic montage flashback is right and properly sci-fi creepy, right? It's a fully white room. The sound is being gated in a strange way so that it feels like you've been concussed or something, and there's a ringing in your ears, and the super bright light is very disorienting, and we see that they're experimenting on this guy while they're narrating it in a very like government file footage style. And I love that scene. And if they do this episode in the live action remake, I'm really excited to see how creepy that scene is, because it was effectively deeply creepy, I think, in this episode. Just very clinically sterile and hostile and uninviting. And at that point I wasn't feeling bad for the criminal though. I still wasn't like, "Oh, poor Pierrot Le Fou." I was like,
Pierrot.
"Oh, whatever. You got experimented on. You don't have to kill everybody." But I did really appreciate the audio mix in this episode, just as with every episode. But that moment where he snaps, right? You've got that rising tone that goes, wee, and then it just smash cuts to everyone in this place is dead. Like,
During the freaking On the Run song.
yeah.
It's right in the middle of
Very-
all that.
Very effective flashback montage. Phil in the chat says it's a mirror to some of Spike's flashbacks too. Definitely. And the audio distortion is always there, I feel like. In Spike's audio flashbacks, it's like he's too far away to hear it or something. Too far away to hear it clearly or something like that.
He also hates cats, which reminds me a lot of you.
So,
And Imhotep from The Mummy, which you can hear Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D and I covering on the Bed Wetter Behead podcast this Monday, August 30th.
so
Shameless.
I was gonna say, just going back to how I kind of just saw, what is it, Tong Poo?
Hmm.
That's his name.
The
That's
code name.
Yeah, no, that's like, I'm pretty sure it's like his
Pen-
actual name. is
Penguin
Tong
Joker?
Poo, yeah.
Oh yeah, right there. Tong
Anywho.
Poo, right there.
So basically, there's this thing they say that the dogs protect you in the physical life, cats protect you in the spiritual realm. So just like with your Egyptian stuff like that, like that's kind of what I picked up on there. Is that's why I was like, oh my gosh, maybe he is kind of like a weird spirit, not cool entity, because he was so afraid of the cats, and he kept going back to that, in his flashbacks there was like the scene of a cat, and while this was happening to him there was like cat meowing or something like that. But I'm just like, no, I think that he's a spirit, and that's why he doesn't like cats.
That was Trev, by the way. Trev starred in this episode, 22 years ago.
Yes.
That was absolutely her. Just staring into the soul of Penguin Joker, and
And it was almost the exact same shot as the Mummy, like the rare, and then
Yeah.
Yeah, his face, yeah, his mouth.
and final parallel maybe in this episode, right? So Mal is frequently saved by his luck, right? It's almost supernatural, Mal's luck. in Firefly. Spike actually gets saved by luck in this moment too. Now, part of it is that he's intelligent enough to go, okay, bullets seem pretty ineffective. I'm going to switch to knives, which any of my Dune fans in the live chat were like, the slow knife penetrates. What is your problem? Stop shooting him. Anyways, the
movie's
reason that
coming out
Spike
this
ends
year.
up the reason that Spike ends up winning is because when that flash of light hits his eye just right, it reminds Pierrot of the cat's eye that was caught in the ultra bright
And you get the
clinical
meow meow.
evil medical light. Right. And he throws him off for a second, and Spike is it. Now, he still shoots Spike, but he doesn't land the shot center mass, and Spike is able to get that knife out and into his leg. But
What a
I actually,
pathetic loser that guy was.
he was
Well,
a child mentally.
Well, they
Yeah.
talked about
I
after
guess you're
after
right.
the experimentation that every year, every as time went on, his mind regressed and regressed. Like it was an ongoing experimentation effect.
Ugh,
Right,
So
and that
yes, when
was-
he is screaming for mommy, he is like a 5-year-old
gosh,
in
I'm
his
being
head,
insensitive. My
just a
bad.
very angry one.
No, Josh, it's probably just Kylie rubbing off on you. But that's what I was bringing up earlier, where it was like when they were showing him being experimented on, I wasn't mad at him, or I didn't feel bad for him yet. But when he's just crying and asking for his mother, then I felt bad for him. I
Yeah,
was like,
they effed him up.
Yeah.
Like
I was
that's
like, okay, he's, now I'm, but then to that point, he gets mercifully crushed by a giant animatronic Disney character. So, we can at least take some comfort in that, I think.
I just don't feel bad for people that kill a ton of people.
Nobody
it's like the
feels
bully
bad
in
for
high
that,
school.
Josh.
But-
The bully in high school that's a jerk the whole time, then you punch him in the face finally and he cries to the principal.
See,
Like
but
that's
the bully in high
you know.
school has a sound mind kind of thing,
Exactly.
Does
whereas
he?
this
Oh,
okay, well
isn't-
maybe not tip top 100% shape, but this
Right.
guy really was actually deteriorating in his brain, dementia, like I don't know, style kind of thing. His
I would
brain was being
argue
eaten.
that even the bully in high school is having a rough time at home. They had a difficult
Right.
childhood, and that's what's
Right.
pushing them into this.
neglected, abused.
Right, and
yeah,
And we're not, to Josh's point, we're not trying to excuse what Pierrot has done. We're saying
yeah.
it's understandable.
he's just in that mental state. It makes
Right.
I get it, but I'm just
What
I
did
just
we
don't feel
watch?
bad for him.
We were just watching Bad
Right.
Batch the other day, and the little drone or guy, he says, just because I understand you
Arc.
doesn't mean I agree with you.
Oh yeah, tech. Yeah.
And I was like, all right. So exactly. So just because we understand why this is happening and why this guy might be doing these things doesn't mean that we're like excusing or agreeing with his actions.
Right.
So.
The guy-
Oh, Bad
ooh,
Batch. I'm
that
I'm a
is-
good girlfriend.
that show
I'm a good Star
sucked.
Wars girlfriend.
We have the world's greatest fans, but I think we should nominate Philip for like world's most knowledgeable guy on all pop culture
Phil's-
things.
On
Phil has
all
been a
nerdness.
librarian since he was like 18 years old.
He's a
And then
librarian.
before
Okay.
that, he grew up in a bookstore that his family owned. So Phil is just a tome of knowledge.
Wealth of knowledge. Yeah.
That is a way cool.
Yeah.
Can we
Phil.
are we allowed to change other people in the chat's name, Josh? Can we change his name to Page Master or something? Like, is that
No, I
doable?
can only delete,
the Oracle.
comment, or
yeah, I think
block
the Oracle
users.
would be good for Phil.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. But I deeply appreciate that, Phil. What it means is that I can put out any tiny, ridiculous, obscure pop culture reference that I want, and if nobody picks it up, Phil will pick it up. And that's the kind of thing that I can't tell you the value of.
He's
my
also
friends.
going to know more about the reference than you did, and you're the one that threw it out.
I think that's what's so fun about him being
By
here
a
is
mile.
he's always showing all of us up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
he's
Venture
like
Brothers
a-
thing last week. I was like,
Yeah.
damn it, that's like my favorite show. How are you schooling me right now?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think that librarian thing is so cool though, man. Like what a cool opportunity. Anywho,
He's
We're
not
just-
55 and he's not.
I know.
He's an
He's a young
indispensable
man.
resource, and
I'm just,
we
I'm
are
just saying you
impossibly
can't
grateful
crush
to
over him.
have
He's not old enough yet.
Oh, okay. That's
Oh,
right.
that makes
Yes,
sense.
he's correct. Josh is saying that I can't have a crush on Phil because he's not an old man.
Yep. Yep.
So
Sorry, Phil.
sorry.
For those of you who maybe for whatever reason you didn't listen to the first season of Sudden But Inevitable where we watched through Firefly, go back, check it out. we couldn't figure out how old Nathan Fillion was for a while, and then as soon as we looked it up, Kylie went from thinking he was not that good looking to going, oh.
No, it was
Oh,
He's
he's
when-
50.
it was when you
oh.
showed me a current picture of him. I
Right.
was like, oh
in
wow.
which
Where
he is
2002
older.
Nathan Fillion, I was just like,
Right.
what ifs.
Yes.
Why are you even with me?
I know he looks so youthful too for his age.
Just some lady at the gas station the other day was like, "Man, I don't see a lot of people in their 30s with beards that look as young as you." And I was like, "Oh,
Aw,
thank you."
thanks.
And now I look at Kylie and go, "God, why are you even?"
It's because she shaved the beard. So we, I couldn't help it. It was right there. So the, what is that from? Oh, I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings. It's very hard to tell dwarf men and dwarf women apart. And Aragorn goes, "It's the beards."
Yes.
Where did this come
I
from?
love
Because it's
it.
not mine.
So
So
is he? Are you a dwarf?
What?
I have.
Handsome dwarf?
I think Josh is the tallest one of all of us, isn't he?
Pretty sure I am.
I don't know.
Actually, I
I-
think Kylie's the tallest
I
of all of us.
really, if Ricky and Jesse are shorter than you, then yes, Kylie is the tallest.
So my last note is that I like that Spike manages to beat this guy on his own. Jet literally calls him up and goes, "Hey, I've got everything you need to know," and Spike just hangs up on him, which is great. And it was again the
Yeah.
supernatural luck combined with how just cool and professional he is.
This guy,
Oh,
Phil,
Phil.
over here.
Um,
What was
I-
the
hell?
extended cut of the Two Towers?
I
Thank you,
was
Phil.
gonna say though,
Quit.
Jesse, to your point, what you were saying right there, that like cliffhanger ending was really, really cool for me because I love the whole horror cliffhanger thing where like it's open to a second kind of thing. I'm not really positive that they're going to even just continue with this sort of story at all, but it was really neat that you were left thinking, oh my God, what was Jet gonna say? What is he? Is he a spirit?
Well-
Is he a demon? What is he? But you never get to hear that. He hangs up and then like the episode ends.
I think he was just going to relay everything that we learned in the flashback.
Yeah.
Personally,
See, maybe that could be,
but you're right. He was also talking about the myth or whatever it was earlier.
well, yeah,
right?
he's like we find out what he was. When you say he
Right.
didn't say who he was. He said
That's
what
true.
he was.
Well,
So
yeah.
what is he? Is he a sage, a demon, an
Well-
angel, a robot? I mean, what is he?
He's the Penguin Joker. That's what he is.
pretty clearly a condemned soul.
Right. And what does that mean though? And that's all I'm saying is that's really cool. It's open to interpretation. It could be whatever
Yeah.
you want it to be, kind of thing.
He's a cyber jerk. But
I
yeah,
wonder if he was already dead and cats, because cats kind of symbolize helping you into the afterlife. So if he was
Right.
already dead, he was so afraid of cats because they were trying to welcome him into the afterlife,
Mhm.
then
the
it would make
opposite-
sense.
I think the opposite would be closer to true, though, right? Like he's a soulless husk at this point, and maybe that's why the cats terrify him because he knows when he goes, that's it for him.
He
There's
ain't-
no
yeah, he ain't
afterlife
going.
coming because he's got no soul.
Sure.
But that's the thing though, is if you don't have a soul, then you're not a conscious being. And I think that that's what's so fun again about this episode is you
Yep.
don't know where it's not black or white. It's somewhere in between, and you really just don't know where he lands, and that's so cool.
Yeah, and Spike really seems struck by kind of the absurd frivolity of this whole situation, right? Like
Because he's
just
so
like-
used to tangible and something that you can beat, somebody that you can overcome kind of thing. And when somebody's not real or like part of this plane, like what do you do? So
the look on
I just-
Spike's face when Pierrot had him dead to rights in the alley right
mhm.
before the first cat thing happened was like,
You knew
like
he was dead.
seriously, this is it? Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be just some literally
Some weird
random
balloon guy.
crazy dude out of nowhere. Like okay, and so I think by the end he was almost. It's not that he was willing to go out that way. He was just thinking like, if that's how I'm gonna go out, this is how it will happen. So whatever. Like, This episode is definitely very intense. Do you guys have any other notes from this episode that you feel like you have to cover before we get to our segments for the week?
I caught a lot of Jack the Ripper vibes as well.
Yep.
That was another reference I caught from this a little bit. Just
Because
the
he was like an alleyway goer.
yeah, and just kind of creepy, you know. But no, I don't have any other notes.
I guess trench coaty. Yeah, I can see that.
I've got some more fairly incorrect notes. Uh, so
kind.
the evil clown, you threw out his name earlier. It's like
Tongue poo.
Pierrot.
Penguin
Kung
Joker.
Fu. Okay, Penguin Joker, sure. Uh, so the
Penguin
first thing
Joker.
I thought he reminded me of was the Monopoly Man because he had the top hat,
Oh.
but he was also super engorged. So I thought the entire episode that he was a symbolism of capitalism, a symbol of
Yeah.
capitalism.
Fat
Oh, I
cat.
love it.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Definitely not. I can see where I was thinking that, but just way off. I was just so
not
far off this
necessarily.
whole episode.
I was gonna say that
No,
that doesn't
dude.
necessarily. It's not wrong.
It's your own
Yeah.
point of view. Like you're watching it through your own glasses. You're not taking any sort of like.
Well, and I guess capitalism and the man is an indestructible being.
Well, and it fits because it's how he is treated by his superiors, right? Like he maybe volunteered for this program or used to be a cop in the ISSP or something, but at some point they went, let's see what we can turn this guy into because we see him as a product. To your point about capitalism, and let's see what we can gain from him and take some of his agency from him. So I think that it's not that you're wrong. I think that it's just very multifaceted, and I think a good show, a show of high quality, allows you to read multiple themes and pull many different experiences from the same material. So I hope you don't consider yourself wrong. I would just say, like, if you, I would say the references glanced off your bow.
Mhm. And Phil in the chat is saying that his name was Uncle Moneybags, which gives me a lot more. Whoa,
What, the
we got Amber
Monopoly
alerts
guy?
going.
Oh,
Okay.
it's the name of the Monopoly Man is Uncle.
Oh, I thought that
Moneybags.
was this guy's name.
No, it's that's
Darn.
tongue poo.
Yeah.
Darn.
But
It's-
yeah, see,
it's-
like, did anybody know that? Did anybody know that Monopoly monocle guy, his name is Uncle Moneybags? Because I did
And
not.
You must be the Monopoly guy.
They're right.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Got that one. Ace Ventura when nature calls. How about that, Phil?
How about that, Phil? He beat you to it.
Crushed by the live delay.
I was gonna say, Phil has long hair like you. You better watch out.
Taking
I'm
all
just
my
kidding. I'm pretty
references.
sure Phil has a wife too. So
All right. On that note,
make this awkward.
Penny bags. Oh, you were
Oh.
wrong.
Oh my gosh! Wow, Phil was
I was
wrong
thinking
for the
something
first
like
time.
Remove from chat.
Pennywise.
he apologized and then said correction, so I don't think we can really hold that against him.
He's pulling a Jesse.
Speaking of things that we don't hold against people, let's jump right into our first segment this week, which I don't know. Let's do Spiegelspiel this week. Spiegelspiel, as you know, is where we share our favorite quotes from this week's episodes, even if they were not uttered by Mr. Spike Spiegel himself. Now, in the spirit of not remembering the order that I normally do this in, let's have our friend Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D go first. What are your picks for Spiegelspiel this week, my friend?
I'm definitely going to steal the best one from Wild Wild Horses. The moment, or it's very early in the episode when we're learning about the space pirates. Jet is talking to Ed, and Ed goes, "Let's keel haul the dirty scalawags." And, like, it's this horribly
pirates? I know
violent
these words.
picture.
Yeah.
It's this violent picture coming out of this just extremely excited, extremely pure being, and I loved it.
Yeah, does she know what keel hauling is? Because, wow.
No,
Probably
and that's the
not.
thing is I think that she just heard that word somewhere down the line, and she's
Yep.
like, "Oh, pirates! I've heard this word associated, and I'm going to scream that right now." Like,
Yeah. We got to
Hey,
say hello
Sinistera.
to
Yeah.
our friend Sinistera in the live chat. He says, made it in time for the spiel. Yes, you did, my friend. Actually, really quickly, Josh, you still have that other tab open? Our friend Sinistera in said live chat is actually the creator of this piece behind me that you see, the Cowboy Bebop ship painting, where it's basically the intro shot from the episode where Spike flies across the screen and leaves a yellow trail of hyperspace speed behind him right there. There are some very cool new items available in Sinistera's shop. And, Josh, I really want to be the one to talk about this, but I'm going to let you do it.
Okay. Sinistera sent us before the show some new portraits that he's made. And they are absolutely from Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
And he said that on his store, so Through November 19th, if you go to Sinistera's store, which I don't
We'll
don't
put the
think I
link in
have
the show
link.
notes.
I don't have the link, but it'll be in the show notes. So if you head to his store and you buy one of these paintings and you type in the code TWIST, you'll get 25% off.
Such a good deal.
Exclusive.
So
Wah,
if you're watching the
wah.
podcast, the live stream right now, you can see the actual photos that he's
Awesomeness.
selling. But if you're listening to the podcast right now, head over to our show notes and head to Sinistera's page. And if you want to grab one of these, make sure to type in the code TWIST.
So colorful, super organic art. I just think it is fun.
Yeah,
And I
super
will
cool.
throw those up as well on the show's Instagram, which is at Sudden But Inevitable Podcast. Ricky D, have you got a second selection for Spiegel Spiel?
Yeah, for the second episode, I think we've pretty much all shouted it out today, but another Ed quote: "Fei Fei, smoke smoke, Fei Fei, mail mail," and she's just
Yes,
trying to
yes.
find Fei, and Fei is just in her own room smoking cigarettes, not wanting to deal with
You only
annoying
have
little
to say
Ed.
it once. It's not Fei Fei.
Yeah,
She's like that annoyed older sister just in a room listening to NSYNC, like, ugh, could you leave me alone, please?
What do you want?
I love that dynamic for them, though. I gotta say, it really
That's
works
cute.
for my heart.
Yeah.
Well, whereas you get Anara and Kaylee is more like a loving older sister, kind of take you under the wing. Like Faye and Ed is definitely like the oh my god, we are totally 10 years apart, and I am super
Yeah,
annoyed.
and I am
Like-
so into boys right now, and
Yeah.
you are annoying
and she
me.
wants to play Barbies, and I guess Ed probably wants to play
G.I. Joe?
no, it would be something on the computer, but
Oh, yeah, you're right.
but
Roller
not
Coaster
Barbie.
World
Tycoon.
of Warcraft.
Anyway,
Let's go with Miss Kylie next. Miss Kylie, did you have selections this week for Spiegel Spiel?
are we doing both episodes right now?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first one, we did mention it, but I do in Wild Horses, and also in a previous episode, Spike says whatever happens, happens. Definitely iconic. I would be willing to bet he says it one more time at least in the season. But I think that I really liked it because I really try to kind of like emulate that mindset. I am such a worrier. Like I am just worried about things all the time, and sometimes like when a big life event or something scary happens in mine and Josh's life that we don't have any control over, we have the opportunity to freak out and panic about something we have no control over, or just kind of be like, dude, let's like go with the flow, roll with the punches, whatever happens like is gonna happen kind of thing. So I just think that was really cool. I want to try to emulate Spike and that sort of, mindset. So worth mentioning. Um, but then also in the second one for Pierrot, they were talking about him and about how his mind had digressed and he's a very powerful kind of being. And Jet says, really, there's nothing as pure and cruel than children.
Mhm.
And I gotta say that I just really sympathize and really connected with that because I've been a teacher. I've got 10 nieces and nephews. Like it's so interesting to see the kind of side of them that is pure and like kind and things like that. But then, good gracious, kids can turn into monsters, and you're like, oh my god, like a murderer? Do I
Right.
need to worry about you? And no, it's just like kind of a kid thing.
They
so
just don't have the societal norms built into their head yet that keep you
Right.
from throwing things
And-
at people's faces or
Right.
slapping
Yeah,
their
exactly.
eyes.
Smacking you in the face with like a remote kind of thing, and kids don't know those things until you kind of teach them. But so yes, they are inherently pure, but also inherently cruel.
If you couldn't tell, my daughter slapped me in the eye today. So
Oh, I
Is
did.
that why you're wearing makeup?
no, I generally wear makeup anytime there's a camera on me. It just happened to be a show night. So
Right.
Gotcha.
but
But
she-
no,
no,
yeah,
like,
they can be.
she actually just gave me like a full on like tips of the fingers style slap to the eyeball, and it was not intentional, but it felt intentional. So I was just like, you are
Good,
cruel.
good thing she didn't get your little eyebrow ring there. That could have
Oh
hurt.
man, she that was her favorite thing to play with before she was about a year old.
Yes,
Because I would always
my,
be looking down at her and she would be reaching for it. So
my nieces and nephews, the babies,
Ooh,
always pull
shiny.
on my nose ring, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that feels great. Thank you. and also probably super sanitary for
Oh
both
yeah,
of us.
cleanest part of my body by a mile. Josh, did you have selections this week for Spiegel Spiel?
Well, I had two, but Kylie took one because, that's what she likes to do. So I only have
I'm
one
so
this week.
insensitive.
Just, so insensitive. So,
It's important to know
um,
yourself.
so the only one that I have would be in reference. It's Miles again. Miles, I am Miles. Miles is me. I can't tell you how many times I tried to not be a Blue Sox fan over the years, and I have never related to a character more. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to not be a Rockies fan over
Or
the
a
years,
Broncos fan.
or a Broncos
Or an
fan,
Avs
and then I still go
fan.
to a game and I still buy a
Or a
hat. And
Nugs fan.
Well, and
Just
he goes so
awful.
far as to say it's like I'm dating an abusive woman or something. Like,
dude,
And
I
it's
just
so
can't
funny
find the right
because
one.
it's true. Like I think that good diehard sports fans totally relate to that feeling.
yep.
I really appreciate that, and I feel like it's one of the strengths of this show that despite being an animated program about space bounty hunters 50 years in the future, it's pretty freaking relatable, pretty freaking often. Like,
Yeah.
I'm impressed by that. So
And the
my
relatability of
selection.
it, sorry, the just the
No,
different
you're good.
kinds of relatabilities you have with this show is crazy.
I
There's
do got to say on
Yeah.
that point, one thing that I didn't remember being as predominant is all of the like music, pop culture, like rock and roll references. Like seriously, this whole every episode is just chock full of
and
something.
I would have never known that as a
And I
kid.
think that's
Right,
it. Me, I
exactly.
mean, me either. Maybe like I
Yeah.
do remember Pink Floyd was always my favorite. So I do remember, like I said, noting that the Pink Floyd song was in this one, but that's all I remember.
Right.
And that goes back to what Ricky was saying, where he was like, "I this episode hit me totally differently, but the way that he explained it, it was 100% valid."
But I
So
also noted
it
that
definitely
that
meshes to
song,
have multiple kinds of relatability to fit with that. That definitely makes sense.
I think that On the Run, the Pink Floyd in that scene where they showed it, I honestly was thinking that I think it would have made a bigger impact on me because like hearing that song for the first time watching Bebop, whereas I was a little jaded by being like, oh, this is a Pink Floyd song kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Um, so sometimes it's not always a good thing, but hey.
Well, sometimes Kylie just watches things incorrectly. Nobody can really account for that when they're making them. So
50%
You
of the
know,
time.
I'm just
Yeah.
always messing up in my
my
whole life.
my selection this week for Spiegel Spiel. Sorry, Ricky D. We were making great time. I'm going to blame Kylie for this. Is that it's from the very well, it's not the very end, but it's before they save Spike, right? Before we're sure that he's going to live. And Doohan tells him like, "Hey, you're not out of the woods yet. This is going to be difficult. Try this, try this, try this. Do you think you can pull it off?" And Spike says, "I'm not the delicate, cautious type." And I started thinking, I don't think there are any delicate, cautious people in this show. Like, I don't know why he needed to remind this guy of that, but I don't know that anybody that we've seen so far has been delicate or cautious. I mean, even Mom from Futurama, who's blowing people up and was 90 years old, was not delicate. Like, but I love that moment because it is. I mean, all of the male characters in this show are ultra macho, right? So it just
Maybe Julia's delicate. If I could like
oh
think of anybody like in the
yes,
whole series, maybe Julia's delicate. But other than that,
physically, Faye would have to be delicate, right? Like a
well,
strong
physically, I suppose.
wind might
Yeah,
just
yeah, she'd probably be very tiny.
yeah.
Whereas Julia's probably in her heart delicate.
Yeah. Oh, Phil brings up Ein. Ein, of course, would be the delicate character.
Or
And
Ed. I feel like
Ed,
Ed
I
could
would
be
say is
delicate.
I
soft
don't
but
know.
not
Ed bit
delicate.
the head off of that freaking monster that was killing
Right.
I guess
poisoning
that's
everyone.
true.
So
Yeah.
She doesn't give
she's kind of a
AF.
savage.
She is.
And then my second selection was actually the one that Ricky had mentioned. There's nothing so pure and cruel as a child. Or was that you that had
That was
mentioned
that
that,
was
Kylie?
Kylie.
So
Yeah.
that was
Had
all
mentioned
three
that.
of ours then.
Yeah, so it's
Good
I mean
job,
it's an
Kylie.
excellent pick. Like and that was I think the reason that I picked it was because I was having that moment of like why did she like flick my eyeball? Like why couldn't she have accidentally hit me in the arm or something, right? Like that would have been doable. Now that we have our selections for Spiegel Spiel out of the way, let's jump right into our next segment for the week, which of course is Shot of the Show. Shot of the Show, as you know, is where we share our favorite visual moments from this week's episodes, as well as the time codes, so that those of you watching or listening along can check out what we are talking about. Let's go in reverse order from the last segment. So, Josh, why don't you give us your picks first?
All right, so my first pick comes from minute marker 21:52 in the episode, and it is the moment when Spike's ship gets put into the Columbia.
So perfectly cradled.
Yeah, it's right after that whole thing. I liked how perfect it was. Just perfectly in place. So I don't know. I
Like a
don't know.
little baby ship inside a mama ship.
Exactly. And then let's see. My next one, I wasn't prepared to go first. Sorry, is
Oh, you're good.
from in episode 20, session 20. It is from minute marker 16:20, and it is this guy right here, because homie is having so much fun on that dog cart,
Being murderous.
throwing bombs at Spike. And again, this just so reminiscent of a Batman episode. And
Mhm.
this right here, I was like, oh my god, that is the Penguin.
Well, what is that? The Victorian collar is so very penguin, right?
And
Yeah,
the
well, I
top
think the
hat and
top
the
hat,
The
the
overcoat.
top hat. Well,
and the
I'm thinking the
cane.
top hat, the cane, and the collar. Does penguin not
And
have a
Penguin
collar?
doesn't have a collar. I don't
Okay.
think.
The rotundity of the fellow in question also matches the penguin.
Yeah.
Toads.
Yep. So, and I don't know. This is one of those blink and you miss it scenes, because it's very quick. So
This was the fastest
had to pull it.
portion of this whole episode. Most of the pacing in this episode is actually pretty slow. And then as soon as
Right.
they get here, it's just like an assault on your senses nonstop, which I think really helps with the immersion, because that's got to be how Spike is feeling.
Right.
Excellent choices, my friend. Let's jump to at Miss My Armcast. Kylie, did you have any picks for Shot of the Show this week?
I did. Only for one episode though. It is going to be session 20. And
Minute marker 5:07.
correct. And this is like, right at the beginning where the super fun, I want to say battle, but it's kind of one-sided, begins. But I just thought, like, I think that a lot of my shots of the show this season has been stuff that just is just so very anime to me. Um and this is one of them. I think it's just a really fun one. You're looking down the barrel of a gun kind of thing. So I just thought it was a really cool shot.
Some
I
James Bond vibes.
I kind of appreciate that this shot, you mentioned that it's kind of an anime shot, and you're 100% correct. But in my mind, this one being an anime shot, they would have some weird alien gun. They would have an energy weapon. But the fact that this one is just a pistol out of our world and it's right in
Yeah.
your face, it does something a little bit more for me.
Yeah, definitely
It's
more
just a good
visceral.
one. Solid shot all around.
I do want to mention to Phil that he says that he has this shot as his computer wallpaper. This is coming from animewallpapers.com, because my god, this shot was so hard to capture.
Because it's like in a split second kind of thing.
Yeah.
My shot was very blink and you miss it. This is literally you don't even blink and you miss it. You're watching and you miss it. So it's very, very quick, but it's pretty cool for sure.
Yeah, it immediately reminded me of Trinity going, dodge this. And I love that moment. And
Mhm.
if that moment was lifted from this, I'm fine with that personally. Sinacera in the chat says this episode is on drugs, or it is drugs. Not sure which. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D and I definitely both felt the same about Mushroom Samba, because we had to wait a whole week to talk about it. So like
Mhm.
by the time I got back to it, I was like, man, I am deeply immersed in this episode. That is a very, very good pick, Kylie. Thank you for sharing that with us. That means that it is Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D's turn to share his picks with us.
Yeah, my first one is from the Wild Horses episode, and it is when they are pulling that spaceship Columbia out of the bay. And up until this point in the episode, as you guys can tell from what I've been talking about, I did not like the Duhan character. He brought up a lot of negative feelings in me, and I was just not digging that guy. But the moment he pulls the spaceship out and he's going to fight with Spike, he's going to be there, he's going to assist. He's got this really cool old rocket ship, which explains everything he's been working on. He's been working on old classic ships. It really turned my opinion on the Duhan character, and I really enjoyed this moment.
Nice. That's a good
So
one.
there is hope for me after all. That's an excellent choice, Ricky D. What about for your second pick?
My second pick is the final shot of the episode.
Getting there.
Yep, it's at minute 22:33. This is after Spike had been shot. He's thrown the knife into Penguin Joker's
Joker.
leg.
Penguin Joker Tallyman.
But there was something reminiscent about these patches, the Band-Aids that he's still got on. It kind of makes him look like a marionette or a clown or some type. And he just got done killing a clown.
Dude, he does look like kind of porcelain, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really liked this final shot, this closing scene.
Penguin Joker Tallyman, tally me banana.
God.
Yes.
I think we got a name for the episode.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%, Ricky. I like the heavy noir vibes through this whole episode, and that's kind of one of the moments where, despite being a pretty well-lit moment, it still got heavy noir vibes, and it still doesn't, despite our hero living through and surviving, it doesn't have really a feel of triumph, right? It has this feeling of like, just remember that this is an absurd kind of way to exist, and it could just stop at any time. So it's definitely one of the heavier episodes I think that we've had up to this point, personally. I chose from the first episode a shot that mirrors a shot from, I think, the first episode that had Faye in it, possibly the second episode that had Faye in it. I'm not 100%, but this takes place at 15 minutes and 10 seconds in the first episode that we watched this week. And it's this shot of Spike in the swordfish, and the shot just before this, you can see through his canopy, you can see his face, you can see all the details, and then the ship rotates ever so slightly, and the glare replaces all those details with a silhouette. And it's just this, if this were a live action, you'd say this was beautifully shot, right? But because it is an anime, I will say this was beautifully illustrated. And it's actually basically the exact same technique and very similar to the same shot that we got when Faye is escaping Spike and Jet's custody for the first time. And he's reaching up to grab his last poker chip, and she crests the Bebop in her ship. You can see her through the canopy, and then as she turns to move, that shine on the canopy replaces her details with a silhouette, much the same way that it does to Spike here. And it stirred something deep in me, and I needed this to be my first pick for Shot of the Show. My second pick for Shot of the Show this week comes from fairly late in the episode, not quite as late as Ricky's choice, but at 21 minutes and 3 seconds in Pierrot Le Fou. This is the moment when the strobing light on the rotating ride in the background keeps flashing on Spike's face, and in this one moment, it glints off of his eyes in a way that reminds Pierrot of the cat from his flashbacks, throwing him off just enough for Spike to be able to, again, not avoid getting shot, but avoid getting killed, and to bury this very cool throwing knife deep into Pierrot's thigh, which he then proceeds to cry about until his demise. Very moody, very cool shots this week, if I do say so myself. Josh, what have you got, my friend?
I have a special bonus edition of Shot of the Show, and this is going to be Shot of the Week. I believe you have this Shot of the Week, and I would like you to tell us about this, Jesse.
So this is actually a series of shots. Do you have all three ready to go?
I do.
Okay, so in case you can't tell, this is my parking spot at work, and the other day I got back to notice, oh, there's an ironing board sitting in my parking spot. And there's something on the ironing board. What is that? Go ahead to the next photo, Josh. So I got a little closer, and I realized, oh, that's a plate with a mushroom just waiting for me in my parking spot. Somebody is totally radical Edwarding me. I'm being microdosed from the shadows.
Waiting for you to eat these mushrooms and see what
See what
happens.
Find
happens,
out what
yeah.
happens to me. So yeah, the third photo there is a very cheeky selfie of me just smiling with the
Yeah.
mushroom. Um,
I had to
our-
bring
our-
that up because that's hilarious.
our wonderful dear friend listener Marie set up that little moment for me, and it was like it just made my week. To Josh's point, definitely shot of the week. As I was pulling back in, my immediate thought was, oh, there's something in my way. I can't park in my spot. That's frustrating. Wait,
You're
what
like,
is that?
ugh, yeah.
Like, what is that an ironing board? What is going? Oh my, is that a mushroom? Okay, I totally know what's happening. Like, immediately understood what was going on, and I started looking around. Like, where is this coming from? Yeah, I can't thank listener Marie enough. That was a wonderful, wonderful moment. To answer Callie D in the live chat, no, I did not eat the mushroom. It was not a shiitake mushroom as they were in the show. It was a mushroom that just happened to be growing in the grass near where the parking lot is.
I was gonna
So,
say Loveland has a lot of
didn't
giant
even-
mushrooms.
I
Nice.
didn't
And
even
yes,
touch them. So
that is rule number one, especially with mushrooms. Don't eat something you don't know about.
yes. Well, I think that's just a rule.
I think so too, but like straight like with mushrooms and berries, like I feel like what you had your hunter and gatherers days,
Yeah, but
and
you
they'd
could
sit
say that with
around the
anything.
fire
I
and be
mean,
like, "Don't touch the mushrooms and the berries you don't
yeah,
know
but
about."
especially with like fish and birds, right? You don't want to. Like you could say that with anything. You got to know what you're doing before you
What's
eat.
See,
that
no, I
meme
don't
that's
know.
like-
I'd probably eat any fish out of like the river that I
Oh,
caught.
we've
I
talked
mean,
about this before.
The meme where the it's like caveman eats berries and dies of pooping his brains out. Next caveman goes, noted.
Well, yes, that's what natural selection is. So, now that we have those two things out of the way, Josh, I can't wait to share this with our
We
live
gotta rate it
audience and our
first.
friends. No, we're gonna rate it. We are gonna
Oh,
rate
okay.
it.
Okay.
But first, I just can't wait to get this brand new bumper in front of everybody. So what we're going to do right now is take a quick moment to give a couple of big shouts for the bounty hunters.
Yeah.
I love it. We're working on the levels. That one was a little bit loud, but it wasn't quite as intense as last week. Now, that was actually one of my favorite parts of last week's show is when after that happened, Kylie went, "Was it loud for you?" It was loud for me. So, I would like to open the door really quickly. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, have you got any big shouts for the bounty hunters this week, my friend?
I do have one. I have been listening to a new little indie podcast and talking to some guys on Twitter. They are Florida Men on Florida Man. The Twitter is at FMOFM podcast, Florida Men on Florida Man. It's just this kind of little news-based local podcast. Most people have heard about Florida Man. It's basically how they write headlines. Just go, it could be Colorado Man, it could be Wisconsin Man, but Florida Man stories tend to be insane.
but yeah, the craziest.
So that's what they're doing is they just find interesting news stories with Florida Man in the headline. Maybe he's wrestling an alligator. Maybe he's hopped up on meth and he's trying to rob a nursing home.
Maybe he had bath salts and ate a phase. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Florida Man stories are always interesting and they just collect them up and they chat about them. And it's very funny. It's very easy to listen to. They're good guys.
That sounds like
Very
fun.
cool. I'm digging that. Yes, look for that Twitter tag in the show notes. Josh, have you got a couple of shout outs this week, my friend?
I was gonna use the Sinacera as a shout out to go check out his store.
Hey, go
I'm,
ahead.
I'm gonna continue to promote that. I've had a lot of shout outs over the last couple weeks, and I don't have much other than head over to Sinacera's store and get some of them portraits for 25% off. Just apply the code TWIST.
I am
Hawaiians.
digging it. Miss Kylie, have you got any big shouts for the bounty hunters this week?
You know what? I actually wasn't gonna say much, but I gotta shout out to Phil again for being super knowledgeable. He says this because of Florida's court reporting laws, and he's absolutely correct on that. because that's kind of like my realm of what I do for a living. And I think that that's why Florida. I don't know. It definitely goes into it, but. Long story short, shout out to Phil. He's always a really fun time in the chat.
Callie asks, "What Florida's what now? Why don't you explain
Oh,
what that is?"
Kelly, Florida is a state here in the
No, no, no.
United
The
States. Oh,
reporting laws, court reporting laws.
I was like, we don't know what Florida is.
It's we call it America's Wang,
Way to
I
be
guess.
insensitive. Kylie.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it is kind of. But no, honestly, it goes into. Sorry, Callie, I'm so sorry. I
There
again
she
try.
goes, being
I'm
insensitive
trying
again.
to be sensitive, and then I come off super insensitive. So I am so sorry. But no, it is actually true about Florida, that they do have weirdo laws, but they also have to like um report and like send subpoenas and things like that way more than any other state in
And it's all
all of
public
America.
record. So,
Right. So yeah.
so everything that comes out
It's
is public
bizarre.
record.
So I think
Yeah,
it is a mixture of maybe something in the water where Florida people are crazy, but I think that also half the reason that you hear most about them is because they do have such crazy reporting laws and weird laws. Like, you there's that list, you can Google it, weird list of America's laws or whatever, and like Kentucky, you can't like marry a duck or something like that because
Ohio, you can't tie your giraffe to a flagpole.
right, because that was so relevant somewhere down the line that somebody had to make a law about it. That's actually a fun rabbit hole to go down to is America's weird laws. Definitely do that.
Because you're like,
Kramer,
who did this? How did this
Right.
law come
How did
about?
who wrote this law and why was this relevant in 1913 kind of thing? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of fun.
You can't move to Florida. This is where people come to die. But speaking of Florida, I do have to say really quickly, do go check out next week's episode of the Bedwed or Behead podcast. It will feature Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D and I sitting down with Megan Carla. Carla lives in Florida. Talking about the 1999 movie The Mummy, and we had so much fun, and I can't wait for you guys all to hear that. I would like to just pile on, Sinacera, huge supporter of ours. Definitely go check out his shop. I want to say thank you to everybody in the live chat: Callie, Rona, Phil, Space Castle Pod. Moltar was here. Rosie is here. You guys are all just the best, and thank you so much. As far as actual podcast shout-outs go, I want to say really quick hello and shout-out. Please go check out a little show called Sci-Fi Remnant. They are on Twitter at Sci-Fi Remnant, and they cover all different kinds of sci-fi properties. They do deep dives. It's a very good show. I personally really enjoyed their District 9 episode. I watched that one live as it was happening, actually, so... definitely go check the guys out. Sinacera says not to shout him out because he is not here. He is asleep. So I take that back, but Josh's still applies. I think other than that, that's going to be it for my shout-outs, which does mean, as Josh was saying, that it is time to rate this sucker and get out of here. So let's reverse that order one more time, which I believe brings it back around to the start. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Why don't you give us your ratings for this week's pair of sessions, my friend?
Yeah. For Wild Horses, I went 7.5. Very good episode. I'm definitely enjoying it, but it didn't hit all of those notes for me like some of the other ones, Mushroom Samba and those guys did. So I went 7.5, which feels low for Cowboy Bebop, but it's pretty high on the chart in general.
Yeah.
And for Pierrot Le Fou, I'm giving it a 6 for now. I almost feel like I should abstain from this vote because I'm giving it a low vote now because I struggled with this episode. But I'm already looking forward to my rewatch of Cowboy Bebop. I'm sticking to the 2 episodes a week schedule right now. I haven't gone back or anything, but I am looking forward to watching this show again and probably again.
Yeah.
And I know this episode is definitely going to be a good one for me.
Well, and I appreciate you not abstaining from rating this one because like in the past on episodes where I, for example, have thrown your rating out, it's only been on instances where you were like, I don't feel like I was in the right headspace for this. I wasn't really in the mood to be watching this week, and it just didn't hit me right. but for you to have had the full experience of like really trying to grasp this and for the references to kind of bounce off, but for you to still get something out of it, because I think all the points that you made were still really good. They were just different points than that what we made, and none of them were invalid. I think that really speaks to the 6 rating because it, like I said, you really seem to have an open mind that you're going with into this, and you're not looking at it like, I was not into this episode, so it's bad. You're like, some piece of my experience is missing. So I think that's a good rating. You're very welcome, Rosie. Rosie said thank you in the live chat. I love you. You're the best.
It's like I don't even know what I'm welcoming for, but
No, because I shouted out all the people in the live chat during the big shouts. That's what she was saying thanks for, because she was in there. I'm paying a little bit of attention, Kylie. Come on. Speaking of Kylie,
She's
what
just
are
being
your
insensitive.
ratings this week, my friend?
So for Wild Horses, I'm actually gonna give it a 6. Not that it wasn't a good episode, it was just really one that like, gosh, just didn't like really hold my attention. Um, I mean, there are definitely good points in there and stuff like that. It was a good episode. But just for me, I'm gonna say it was a 6. On the other hand, session 20, I'm gonna give, gosh, I want to give that one a 9. And I'm just thinking because just for me, it really hit all the points of things that I do enjoy. So you had Batman references. It was kind of like a horror episode. All these things that I really truly enjoy kind of came together in this episode. It was scary. It made you on your seat. It was weird. You were questioning. And then, of course, that cliffhanger ending like, oh my gosh, what's going on with this guy? And you still never really get that answer. I just thought it was a whole lot of fun, and I want to give it a 9.
Okay, he's dead though. Like he got smashed. Like
No, yeah, no, he's totally, yeah, he's dead and he's smashed. I just, again, I think it was fun that like you're not really sure about this
oh,
guy. And with
you're talking about where he said we know what he is, and we didn't get the whatever.
yes, yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. No, so obviously, yes, he died in the end. But when they say, "Oh, we know what he was," it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just so curious. So I just thought that was cool.
Sinacera puts it very succinctly. It's on
It's
drugs.
on drugs.
Yeah, it's on drugs. Josh, what are your ratings this week?
So Wild Horses was a 7 for me. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I laughed a couple times. Good times. But the 20th session of Cowboy Bebop will be my first ever 10 out of 10 rating. To just kind of further what Kylie was saying, and maybe I was on drugs when I watched it, and that's why I liked it, and because this show's on drugs. So I don't know, but no. To be completely honest, like it was like, I don't know, man. It was a Batman episode, and it was scary, and it had a lot of really just a lot of fun action and explosions, and just like I was sitting up, like as soon as like the camera started panning across the city, I sat up in my bed because I'm hanging out with my cat right now. She has stitches and stuff, but I'm hanging out with my cat, and so when we're watching it, I like sit up in my and just so attentive to this whole episode, and it was my favorite one so far. You get the again the Batman references. You get the amazing backstory of this character that you're like, oh man, why is he such a jerk? And then you find out kind of why he's such a jerk. You get the crazy carnival. I love carnivals. I love Donkey Kong Country 2. I love Space Jam. I
My
mean,
name is Josh. I love carnivals. I love Donkey Kong Country 2. I love Space Jam, and I'm here to party.
I'm here to party.
God, I hope I'm never single again, because that'll definitely be my Tinder profile.
I know. What are we gonna do? It's been too long for us to get back in the dating game.
No pressure.
So anyway, yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 for me because I really, really enjoy this. Callie, Trev had a really bad infection. One of our other cats had bit her, and it got really, really infected. So they had to do some surgical work and put some tubes in her and do some things. And I figured just saying stitches was a little bit nicer than going into the
So,
whole thing.
Callie, though, that's very nice of you to ask. It
Yeah.
actually isn't the same kitty that we had the Lily fiasco with.
Of course not. It's got to be a different one. What's gonna happen to Alan now?
But the third cat, Alan, is the one who bit Trev. She
Alan's
got
gonna lose his
infected,
job.
abscessed. Alan's totally gonna lose his job.
He's gonna lose his teeth. I'm kidding. He's not gonna lose his teeth.
I actually, if we're talking about our pets now and their medical issues, I recently took Zoe to the vet, and they were talking about removing her jaw because she had a little infection down there. They ended up only having to pull a few teeth. They got rid of a little growth that she had. She's doing very well, but I was prepared for that same thing. You guys, it might not be that bad. I'm hoping for you.
Oh no, thank you. We're actually doing really
It's
good in the
good.
clear. She's healing
Oh, yeah.
super
Yep.
nice. It's been a long road, like lots of medicine and things like that, but like it's better than we would have hoped for. So again, like thank you to Ricky and Jesse for always supporting us and our kitties, but also the chat. Like I know
guys-
kitties aren't important
yeah,
to
that's
everybody,
awesome.
but it's like so huge for us, and it's really nice to have that support. So thank you.
And same to Ricky. Hopefully
And again,
Zoe.
we love
gets
Zoe,
better.
of course. So
She's sitting by my feet right now listening to us. She's doing
Oh
good.
yeah.
So
good,
if
good.
you-
I'm fine.
And she has her mouth, so that's great.
Yeah, she's got her whole mouth, minus a few teeth.
Yes.
And
That
sure,
sounds like
sure.
me.
Yeah, Josh is on the same page. It's fine.
If you follow Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D on Twitter at Best Flicks Ricky D, you can see some very sweet pictures of Zoe hanging out with us tonight for the live chat.
She is a cute little pup too. Big old pup, I guess, but
Yeah.
So I just want to point out really quickly, I think it's very cool how big the range is on this second episode, especially knowing that like Bebop fans as like whatever, some kind of group. I don't know if it's clearly not a monolith, right? But anyway,
The boppers? Can we call them the boppers?
yeah,
There we
to know
go.
that
I
the
like that.
boppers may have ranked this episode fairly low, and to see Ricky feel a way about it, and to see Josh feel a way about it, and have it be significantly different but for equally valid points, I think is just really cool. So I personally, I think I enjoyed Wild Horses more than the rest of you. You guys could probably tell that when we were talking about Wild Horses. Just because there were so many clear Star Trek references. And to me, this is one of the first episodes in a while that has felt, I don't know what the word is, not low stakes, but like just fun, I guess, like pure fun, maybe, if that makes sense. There were stakes, but it was just like, this is a fun little side thing. Like there's not a ton of details going on here. It's just a fun space cowboy episode. So I gave that one an 8, which brings us to a 7.125 out of 10 for the first episode. And then the second episode, I don't know that any of us enjoyed it quite as much as Josh. I think it's really cool that Josh and Kylie were so close on their ratings with a 10 and a 9. I'm personally closer to Ricky, but I definitely felt I should modulate upward slightly from where he was at. So I'm going to give that episode a 7. So with that gives Pierrot Le Fou an 8 even out of 10, which is pretty high. Like
So that's pretty uncommon, right? For the Bebop, for the boppers.
I would think so. I'm going to go check it out because now I want to know. And I really, really like it. And yes, to Philip's point, Wild Horses is a great diversion episode before we get Mad Pierrot. So I don't know about you guys. I had a ton of fun with this week's pair of episodes. I think the last couple of pairs that we've had have been really strong. And I remember Pixie saying, you can't have bangers all day, but I feel like we've been kind of getting bangers all day. Like,
yeah.
Agreed. We need to watch a
Well-
show that sucks next season.
if there's
Totally,
one
let's
thing-
do
yeah,
that.
if there's one thing that people love to revisit, it's things they hate.
Yeah, right. Like,
So, unless you guys have anything else that you'd like to get out before we roll, I think we're basically done for the evening, my friends. Is there anything you feel like we missed?
I missed making our sweet video for our ending, so I'll have that ready by next episode. It's
Oh,
another
and you
one of those
people-
surprises, but
You wonderful people are going to love that, and I can't wait to
Yes.
share it with you.
yes, keep sending those pictures of your new shirts.
I do
All
not
right.
have anything, sir.
Okay. Well, then, for the sign-off order, let's go Ricky, Kylie, Josh. And I would like to say thank you, good night, one more time to everybody in the live chat. Callie, Rona, Philip, Moltar, Space Castle, Sinacera, Rosie,
Pixie.
Pixie. I love all of you people. I can't tell you how much your support and the time that you spend with us means to all of us. So, for the sudden but inevitable Rebop, I have been your host, Jesse.
This is Ricky D. Best Flicks with Ricky D.
This is Kylie.
And I'm Josh.
See you, Space Cowfolk.